Chapter 2419. After making up his mind, Lin Feng got rid of the death immortal puppet. There was no need to keep two, and with his peak divine lord fighting strength, he could enter the top 10,000 in the hidden revere training camp, so he could protect himself. Keeping one was just for emergencies. Concept of heaven and earth. It cost 50 Qian revered points to enter, and although it was expensive, it was a very popular training facility in the Universe District. Although it wasn't as popular as the perfect time array, that was because it was expensive. Countless geniuses earned a lot of Qian revered points in the dangerous natural region and hunting zone, but they all spent it here. Even Ka Bishing spent 250 Qian revered points in the concept of heaven and earth. 1,000 years, 500 Qian revered points. Lin Feng didn't care about the price and entered the concept of heaven and earth to level up. As his life level increased, his understanding of the heavenly Tao deepened. So Lin Feng was confident that he could level up his concept of heaven and earth. With his current life level, his understanding of the heavenly Tao wasn't any weaker than other peak divine lord geniuses. Maybe even better. After all, his soul was stronger, and his willpower was stronger. The fifth style of the Great Avalanche collapse that he hadn't fully comprehended before was fully comprehended in just 200 years. After that, he recalled the 6th to 10th levels of the Great Avalanche and tried to comprehend the concept of heaven and earth. 100 years, another 100 years. Lin Feng's path to breaking through the concept of heaven and earth was very long. Only in the 7th God world would he have such a chance. In the Xingfeng star boundary, it was hard to even comprehend the concept of heaven and earth, and in the Yin, Exine Universe Nation, he couldn't even comprehend the concept of heaven and earth. A good place to cultivate was very important to a cultivator. In a hidden revered training camp, Lin Feng seemed to have found a new world, and his cultivation path was completely opened. King Kong District. The path to King Kong was the demon race's first choice, and there were almost no human powerhouses here. In the infinite gravity training facility, there was a demon race male with half of his body red and half green. His muscles were terrifying, and his body was even stronger than Lin Feng's. He was also a chaos body. Yin Handy, a newcomer of the hidden revered training camp, ranked 2nd in the dangerous natural region, and was also ranked 2nd on the newcomers ranking. Huang Qinyan and Manjiang are just two idiots. I, the prince of the Yanhan demon clan, will unify the newbie ranking of the hidden sovereign training camp. No one can stop me. After the crazy training, Yan Handy's face was ferocious, and her fighting strength was terrifying. She had also reached the peak of the Divine Master Realm. He was famous in the hidden Zune training camp. Among the newbies in the King Kong area, he was second to none. The perfect small success, chaotic heavenly way, combined with the innate chaotic body, created Yan Handy's tyrannical strength. Time zone. It was a dark green, 7-meter-tall man with a pair of strange eyes. His left, I was a full moon, and his right, I was a crescent moon. He carried 4 treasured swords of different lengths on his back, and 2 of his 4 arms were long and short. Manjiang was ranked 1st in the hidden supreme training camp and 3rd in the 2 great training camps. With his strength, he could naturally compete with Huang Qinyan in the dangerous heavenly region. However, he didn't want to simply pass the dangerous heavenly region. He wanted to get a higher score and more revered points. The dangerous heaven region was not in a hurry. According to the information, Huang Qinyan is stronger than Yakro. I only have one goal, to defeat her. In the perfect time formation, Manjiang practiced his sword techniques to the extreme. He waved his 4 precious swords at the same time, and he used 4 different sword techniques at the same time. He was doing 4 things at once, and it was terrifying. It was as if 4 peak divine masters were attacking at the same time. For against one, how could it not be powerful? His goal was not only to be the top newbie in the hidden supreme training camp, but also the top newbie in the 2 great training camps. Universe Zone. After all, Wanxiang Heavenly Way was the easiest way to become a Universe Knight. There was no strong or weak path on the path of a Universe Knight. It depended on which path was more suitable for oneself. The descendants of the ancient Phoenix clan possessed incomparably beautiful looks that could topple countries and cities. Huang Qinyan's beauty had long surpassed the category of humans. She was like the embodiment of beauty in the world. Her sword techniques were mixed with the talent of the ancient Phoenix clan. It was like the wings of a phoenix soaring in the sky. It was incomparably beautiful. Her attacks were innately engulfing flames, which could destroy the enemy and strengthen herself. She was the super newbie who had defeated the peerless genius Yakro on the newcomer ranking list of the Dangerous Heaven region. Huang Qinyan, she was like a fairy dancing with her sword. Even the artistic conception of heaven and earth made way for her. Huang Qinyan didn't have a terrifying body like Yin Handy, nor did she have a powerful bloodline talent like Manjiang. However, she had incomparable talent, comprehension, and affinity with the heavenly way. Her swordsmanship was self-created. Her artistic conception of the heavenly way had long surpassed the level of minute subtlety and reached the level of exquisite. Her strength had been proven. While the three geniuses of the Hidden Supreme Training Camp were working hard to prepare for the test of the actual combat domain, the other newbies didn't want to be left behind. The geniuses who came to the Hidden Supreme Training Camp all had the same dream: to walk their own path with their own 2 feet. If they were afraid of death and danger, why would they come here? They might as well go straight to the Heavenly Way secret region. Coming to the Hidden Supreme Training Camp, they had to try their best to improve themselves. They had to struggle and work hard to control their own destiny. 1,000 years passed in the blink of an eye. It was the 4,000th year of this era. The Dangerous Supreme Training Camp opened again. It was less than 1,000 years before the test of the actual combat domain. Lin Feng stepped out of his artistic conception of heaven and earth. After 1,000 years of training, he had already touched the threshold of minute subtlety. After all, his perception was very strong. Coupled with the powerful effect of his artistic conception of heaven and earth, it was difficult not to touch the threshold of minute subtlety. It's a pity that I still can't comprehend the heavenly way of minute subtlety. Lin Feng felt a little regretful. He hadn't heard the unique reward sound in his artistic conception of heaven and earth. It had sounded when he reached the ordinary heavenly way of minute subtlety. It would definitely sound again when he reached the heavenly way of minute subtlety. This was because when the training facilities reached a certain level, there would be hidden supreme points as a reward. Let's go take a look at the deeper level of the heavenly way of minute subtlety. Or maybe I'll get some inspiration. Lin Feng stepped into the Dangerous Supreme Training Camp again. Looking for the location of the big avalanche, Lin Feng focused on improving his cultivation. In fact, it was disadvantageous to train in the same Dangerous Supreme Training Camp. This was because the increase in difficulty was geometrical. The big avalanche was much more powerful than other Dangerous Supreme Training Camps at level 11 to 15. Because the cultivator had already adapted to this kind of Dangerous Supreme Training Camp, the top intelligence would give a stronger test. In order to pass, one would need stronger combat power. However, Lin Feng didn't care. With his combat power, he could even pass level 41 to 45, let alone level 11 to 15. He was no longer a newbie who had just entered the Dangerous Supreme Training Camp. He was a super expert who had comprehended the third heaven of light and darkness. His combat power was comparable to that of a peak almighty. He didn't come to the Dangerous Supreme Training Camp for hidden supreme points or ratings. There was only one reason for him to come to the Dangerous Supreme Training Camp: to comprehend the saber. Chapter 24:20. Level 11 Great Avalanche. It was the strengthened version of Level 1 Mega Avalanche, but its power was more than 10 times stronger. Huge snowballs fell one after another, forcing Lin Feng to defend with all his might. Mega Avalanche against Mega Avalanche. Lin Feng met force with force, directly attacking. Now he had enough confidence. He had already completely grasped the essence of the Great Avalanche. His saber technique was constantly improving, and it was difficult for him to improve it further. However, his conception of the way of the heavens was becoming more and more profound. Experiencing it personally and seeing it with his own eyes had a completely different effect. So that's how it is. This is how the great avalanche's will of the heavens is improved. Hyperfocus. Oh, this is hyperfocus. Lin Feng, who had already entered hyperfocus, had a deeper understanding. It was like combining theory and practice, learning from each other and understanding each other. That kind of comprehension was much greater than normal, especially as the power of the great avalanche continued to increase. From the 11th level to the 21st level, and from the 21st level to the 31st level, every 5 levels was also a leap in the heavenly Tao. Boom! Lin Feng shattered the last big snowball, his eyes sparkling. It was about time. Level 35, I finally passed. Lin Feng sighed. He had tried his best to pass the great avalanche. Experiencing the same danger zone in the same place, the difficulty is too high. Lin Feng knew the rules. Level 35 in the Great Avalanche was about the same as level 55 in other places in the dangerous natural region. They are really strong. Lin Feng looked at the dangerous natural region newcomer ranking. Unknowingly, he had reached the top 1,000, but the first place was still the same. Huang Qinyan was at the top and had passed level 55. Yi was right behind her and had also passed level 55. The super newcomers of the 2 training camps were secretly competing, not wanting to fall behind. Actually, there's still many newcomers who are strong, but not on the ranking. Lin Feng looked at Man Jiang, who had only passed level 45. With his strength as the top newcomer, it was obvious that he was stronger than this, but he didn't continue to break through. It wasn't hard to guess the reason. If I want to increase my strength, I'll have to go to a higher level dangerous natural region. Lin Feng smiled. This way, the completion rate would be higher, and he would get more Qianzun points. Both sides of the same coin had their own advantages. After all, if he passed the higher level dangerous heaven regions first, he would have more Qianzun points to cultivate in the various training facilities. Then, he would be able to increase his strength and pass the higher levels of dangerous heaven regions. It was hard to say which one was better. It all depended on which one was more suitable for oneself. As for himself, it didn't really matter. He just followed his heart. After all, he had been grinding an avalanche all this time. Although the difficulty was comparable to the level 55 outside, the power coefficient was the same. On the other hand, the completion coefficient would be much lower than the completion coefficient. Where there is loss, there is gain. Lin Feng smiled. The reason why his great avalanche concept of the way of the heavens could improve so much in such a short period of time and touch the point of the way of the heavens of the subtle realm was inseparable from the continuous experience of the great avalanche over the past few hundred years. There's still time. I'll go to the intent world one last time. However, there aren't many hidden revered points left. Lin Feng smiled bitterly. The 500 hidden revered points from the death immortal puppet had been used up. From level 11 to level 35, the completion rate at the beginning was not bad, but the completion rate at the end was quite normal. He received a total of 1155 hidden revered points. It seemed like a lot, but his completion rate wasn't high. Moreover, hidden revered points could only be obtained once. It would only get harder and harder in the future. His days in the hidden revered training camp had just begun, so he had to use them sparingly. 1341 hidden revered points. Lin Feng returned to the universe area. He didn't even go back to his room. He didn't even turn on his communication device. He directly went to the intent world. It was already the 4,691st year of this era. There were still 209 years until the combat domain opened. 2 chances. Lin Feng didn't hesitate and stepped in. In the universe area, many experts were preparing for battle, especially the top 10 experts in the hidden revered training camp. Pu Kiki, Hua Yun, and Glaze Ghost. Their goal wasn't just to enter the final roulette battle, but also to take the throne of first place. As for people like Wang Sun, their goal was to enter the top 100 roulette battle. The combat domain was the same as the survival domain. It was highly valued by honorables. Many honorables didn't even look at the survival domain when accepting disciples. This was because bloodlines and heavenly treasures had shackles there. Some potential and abilities would be more obvious in the combat domain. As for the newcomers, those who were in the top 100 might try to enter the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand. They might be able to break through if they were close to the peak Divine Lord limit in the combat domain. However, most newcomers weren't as experienced as the seniors. Even if they had such strength, it would be difficult for them to succeed. Basically, there were very few newcomers who could enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand. Over the years, there were only 2 or 3 who had exceeded half of the eras. There wasn't even a single newcomer. As for the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand, the top 100 roulette battle was even more impossible for newcomers. Such newcomers would only appear once in 1,000 eras. They were the true supernovas among the super geniuses. The hidden revered training camp hadn't appeared for 381 eras. This era's newcomers are more ruthless. There will definitely be a few who can enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand. Yes, Huang Qinyan has a high chance. It's hard to say for Man Jiang and Yin Handy. Their talents are stronger, but there might be other newcomers. Yes, in fact, the last ones to appear in the combat domain are often nameless newcomers. Don't talk about the newcomers. Even if they enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand, they will soon be annihilated. The roulette battle is the most exciting. We have lost to the deicide training camp every era. Looking back, I heard that we have lost continuously for more than 100 eras. That can't be helped. Who asked the deicide training camp to be so ruthless? They're all like wolves and tigers. There are pros and cons. That's why the deicide tower has the least number of venerables among the 5 giants. This era depends on Pu Kiki. There's also the great demon Tua Kong of the Vajra district. They are very good at the combat domain. It's difficult. The opponent is too strong. They will lose for sure. The hidden revere training camp was in full swing. The discussions didn't stop. Many cultivators who were trying to break through were cultivating nonstop. Every combat simulation space was full. Everyone rushed to do it. After all, the combat domain wasn't just about the score. If they could enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand, they would be rewarded with hidden revered points. The further they went, the higher the score, and the more hidden revered points they would be rewarded. In the year 4891 of this era, there were only 9 years left before the combat domain opened. A ray of light flashed across the intent domain. A lone figure, hiding a perfect aura that merged with the heavenly Tao, slowly stepped out. Lin Feng had come out of seclusion. Chapter 24-21. Universe District, Plaza Leisure Tavern. The open-air plaza was filled with cultivators from the Universe District. Most of them were in groups of 3 to 5. After staying in the training camp for a long time, they naturally had some good friends, especially those who went to the dangerous natural region and precious treasure region together. Because only they were allowed to enter each cultivator's room, and Hidden Exalt Luo Jing only supported simple one-on-one messaging. They would gather in the plaza if they wanted to. Cultivators would also feel tired after cultivating for a long time, so they needed to balance work and rest. Brother Lin, you really do amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. You've given us quite a scare. Yuan Shiyu exclaimed. Little Fox, Oh Yang, also opened her eyes wide and looked at Lin Feng with admiration. Shi and Yuan Shiyu were both level 1 geniuses, and their battle power was above Lin Feng's when they entered. Especially Big Brother K, whose battle power was at the peak of the God Lord level. However, Shi and Big Brother Yuan Shiyu were only at level 25 in the dangerous natural region, which was 10 levels lower than Lin Feng. 10 levels was like heaven and earth. Luck. I barely managed to get past level 35. Lin Feng smiled. The level 35 Mega Avalanche could be said to have forced out all of his trump cards and combat power. Of course, this level 35 was actually the same as the level 55 difficulty. Hearing about you isn't as good as meeting you in person. Brother Lin, you're indeed a special genius of our Xing Feng branch. The one who spoke was a thin youth with sharp ears. His amber eyes flashed. He was also a level 1 genius from the Xing Feng branch, Qi Ruolin. He had helped Yuan Shiyu and Ouyang E in the dangerous natural region. Brother Chi, you're too humble. Your dangerous natural region's level is higher than mine, Lin Feng said humbly. It's only 2 levels higher. Chi Ruo Lin shook his head. I'm already in the second era. Plus, I've already spent most of the hidden exalt points I got in the dangerous natural region, so my progress will be slower and slower. Actually, when I first entered, I wasn't convinced. I always felt that I wasn't any worse than those special geniuses. However, I gradually found out that I was too arrogant. The 7th Mercenary Alliance's honorables are much sharper than us. Special geniuses are indeed special geniuses. They're really amazing. Chi Ruo Lin sighed. Lin Feng, your battle prowess might not have been as good as Hu Jinyu's before, but you've already surpassed him in the first year. The 2 special class geniuses who entered in the same era as me, Pu La and Meng Tuoleo, were ranked behind me on the scoreboard at the end of the first era, but now sigh. I'm not as clear as Yuan Shiyu in this regard. When Yuan Shiyu heard this, he couldn't help laughing. People born in the royal family were indeed different. Most of the time, they were more far-sighted and thought more. Moreover, Yuan Shiyu was candid and talkative. He never gave people a feeling of being high and mighty. Instead, he was like the boy next door, making people unconsciously treat him as a friend. Big Brother Chi, Big Brother Lin, you guys are so powerful. I can't do it. Oyangi pursed her bright red lips and said in distress. If it wasn't for Big Brother Koei, I wouldn't have reached level 25 in the dangerous heaven region. Yuan Shiyu smiled bitterly. I've also reached my limit. In a level 100 dangerous terrain, level 5 is a small gap, and level 25 is a large gap. The higher you go, the harder it is to level up. Yeah, Chi Ruo Lin sighed. Actually, the number of experts starts to decrease after level 41. Half of those at level 46 are gone. Level 50 is a milestone. Our Xingfeng branch doesn't have a single one. Level 50, a milestone. Lin Feng knew that if someone could reach level 50 in the dangerous terrain alone, it meant that they had the combat power of a peak divine lord. This was already very outstanding in an astral realm. Normally, those who entered the top 10,000 of the training camp ranking were all above level 50 in the dangerous terrain. This was the standard of a special genius in the training camp. There were 29,999 astral realms, some big, some small. Xingfeng Astral Realm wasn't very famous among the 2,9999 astral realms. It was ranked below 20,000. In the previous 7th Hidden Zone Conference, it only got the lowest 10 spots. This showed how rare Xingfeng Astral Realm was. The 7th Mercenary Alliance's Xingfeng branch only had one special genius in the past 100 years. He was ranked 9,902 in the Hidden Zone training camp before the 50th era, barely squeezing into the top 10,000. His combat power was naturally at the peak Divine Lord level. However, there wasn't such a genius in the Hidden Zone training camp. Although every cultivator could stay in the Hidden Zone training camp indefinitely and continue to cultivate, one had to know that even if they didn't enter the hunting zone, they had to enter the survival zone in the last 100 years. The death rate in the survival zone was extremely high. Even the top 10,000 cultivators on a ranking board had a high chance of dying, unless they had the Death Immortal Puppet. However, the Death Immortal Puppet required 500 Hidden Zone points to exchange, which was very expensive. It was too difficult to obtain, so one had to enter the dangerous terrain or the hunting zone. The former didn't have many Hidden Zone points, and it was only possible to earn Hidden Zone points at the beginning. As for the hunting zone, the death rate wasn't any lower than the survival zone. Therefore, although the Hidden Zone training camp didn't have a time limit, there were very few who could stay for 5 eras, let alone 7, 8, or even 10 eras. This was because the further one went, the less room for improvement it would be, and the harder it would be to stay. Most of the people in the training camp had stayed for 2 or 3 eras. There were less than 100 cultivators who had stayed for more than 10 eras. Our Xingfeng branch has less than 300 cultivators left, Chi Lin said. Among them, there are 9 special class geniuses, so their survival rate is quite high. However, the other geniuses have a higher death rate. Lin Feng nodded silently. There were more than 100 newcomers in this era, and none of them had died. Therefore, there were less than 200 cultivators left out of the 1,000 in the previous 10 eras. The elimination rate was quite cruel. Special class geniuses had a bonus of 1,000 hidden Zune points, which allowed them to purchase the Death Immortal puppet, so their survival rate was higher. However, first-class and second-class geniuses weren't so lucky and had to rely on themselves to obtain hidden Zune points. Big Brother Chi, who's the strongest in our Xing Foam branch? Oyangi asked curiously. Look at the ranking board and the Dangerous Terrain Zone ranking. It's usually a combination of the two, so the Dangerous Terrain Zone ranking is more accurate. Chiruo Lin said, don't look at first-class and second-class geniuses when they first enter. However, after 2 eras, the top rankers in every branch are all original special class geniuses. It's the same for our Xing Foam branch. Right now, the strongest are Wang Zihan, who passed the Dangerous Terrain Zone at level 46, Meng Luo at level 45, and Long Winged at level 44. They're all special class geniuses. Chiruo Lin said, the 2 special class geniuses from the previous era who came in with me, Pu La and Meng Ta. Now, they're both at level 40 in the Dangerous Terrain Zone. Ha! Laughter came from afar. Meng Ta, I think I heard someone talking about us. Chapter 24-22. Lin Feng looked over. 2 cultivators walked over from afar, one tall and one short. The tall one was like a giant bell, bald with black skin. He had 2 metal earrings on his earlobes. His eyes were as big as copper bells, emitting a cold aura. The demon race's secret markings on his face were complicated and hard to distinguish. The short one had a square face and slanted eyes. He had 2 antennae on his forehead. His sallow complexion wasn't unhealthy, but he was born this way. He was about 1.5 meters tall, and his bones were slender. His entire body emitted a wind aura, and his eyes contained the time heavenly Tao. Meng Tuoluo Pula. Chi Ruo Lin had already mentioned him when they were chatting. Lin Feng recognized him at first glance. The tall one was Meng Tuoluo, a demon race expert. The short one was Pula, a demon race expert. They were the 2 super geniuses of the Xing Foam branch in the previous era. Pula walked over with a faint smile on his face. He glanced at him and said, oh, I was wondering who it was. So it's Brother Ruo Lin. In the last era, you swore that you would enter the top 100,000. You would enter the top 10,000 in 5 eras and become a super genius. Chi Ruo Lin's expression was a bit ugly. When he first came to the Hidden Saint training camp, he was indeed full of fighting spirit and was very proud. Yes, Meng Tuoluo glanced at Chi Ruo Lin indifferently and then looked away. In his eyes, this was just a stranger, not worth mentioning. As for Lin Feng and the others, they were directly ignored. Pula smiled at Chi Ruo Lin. Why? Are the seniors in the training camp passing on their experience? Well, you can only pass on the experience of those who have experienced it, and let them learn to respect the super geniuses. The difference between the super geniuses and the first-class geniuses is not something you can reach. Shua. Chi Ruo Lin's gaze deepened. Don't go too far, Pula. No. Meng Tuoluo's body was like a giant bell, bringing a strong pressure. Pula is speaking the truth. Pula laughed. They won't understand. Meng Tu, it's just playing the lute to a cow. Slowly, they will understand, because the difference will only get bigger and bigger. This is the gap between the super geniuses and the first-class geniuses that cannot be crossed. We also have super geniuses here. Ouyang, he was not convinced. Oh, Pula swept his gaze over them, and he was slightly surprised. In the end, his gaze fell on Lin Feng, and he squinted his eyes. A mid-level divine master? Are you one of the 3 special geniuses of this era's Yuanxing Peak branch? So weak? There were a total of 4 cultivators. Neither Chiruo Lin nor Ouyang was a cultivator. Choosing between Yuan Shiyu and Lin Feng was not difficult for Pula. Weak? Chiruo Lin sneered. Check Lin Feng's current dangerous heaven region level before you say that. Pu La's eyes flashed, and he reacted quickly. The hidden revered Luo crystal flashed and revealed a look of shock, level 35? Whoosh. Meng Tuoleo's gaze turned cold as he stared at Lin Feng. Level 35. On the newcomer ranking list of the Dangerous Heaven region, he had already made it into the top 1,000. That was a total of 29,999 astral realms. Most importantly, Lin Feng himself was a special genius. Normally, special geniuses would only show their strength in the second or third era. There were very few who showed their strength in the first era, but when they did, it proved that this newcomer was very strong. Pu La and Meng Tuoleo had only barely passed the level 30 Dangerous Heaven region at the end of the first era. However, this newcomer Lin Feng had already passed the level 35 Dangerous Heaven region in the middle of the first era. How terrifying! Only level 35. Pu La curled his lips, and his face twitched slightly. Chiruo Lin smiled. Yes, only level 35. Yang Yi also smiled sweetly. Only 640th on the Dangerous Heaven region newcomer ranking list. Higher than us. Meng Tulo looked at Pu La. Pu La's expression became even uglier as he stared at Lin Feng. There are many newcomers who start high and end low. If you really have the ability, show them in the combat domain test. Pu La snorted, and his eyes flashed. If we meet in the combat domain, we won't show mercy. Let's go. With that, Pu La and Meng Tuoleo left. Yang Yi chuckled, and Yuan Shiyu smiled as well. Chi Ruolin's expression returned to normal. The two of them are very arrogant. Of course, they have the right to be arrogant. However, their personalities make me feel uncomfortable. There are too few special geniuses like Brother Lin. Humble and gentle. This is a true expert. Chi Ruolin praised and gave a thumbs up. Yes, Brother Lin is a good person. Yang Yi agreed. Brother Lin is indeed different from the other special geniuses. Yuan Shiyu smiled brightly. You guys are making me embarrassed. Lin Feng couldn't help but smile. Don't mind those useless people. Come, let's drink. After today's gathering, we will meet in the combat domain. Go, go, go. Don't really meet them, Chiruo Lin said. Yuan Shiyu laughed. If we meet them, then so be it. No one will die in the combat domain. Come, let's celebrate in advance. Yes, let's celebrate our good results. Our goal is to enter the third round. So high, I'm already satisfied to enter the second round. Lin Feng was naturally happy to make a few more friends. After all, for a cultivator, the time spent cultivating was too long. With less than 9 years left, Lin Feng entered the combat simulation space again to adapt to his body and make the final preparations for the combat domain. Remaining Qianzun points, 1431. It was originally 1241, but in the intent world, the top AI gave him 200 Qianzun points. The self-cultivation space doesn't mean much to me. The most important thing now is combat. Lin Feng entered the second category of the combat simulation space, the challenge space. Here, the top AI would set up strange and powerful opponents. Just like the Dangerous Heaven domain, there were 100 levels. After level 30, one would receive Qianzun points. 5 stages is a small threshold. 10 stages is a large threshold. The 31st to 50th stages are the third round to the Great Elimination Sand stage. In the combat simulation space, one's strength is peak Godlord. My current strength in the combat simulation space has far surpassed that. After the combat domain, I won't be coming here for a while. Let's get all the Qianzun points first. Lin Feng smiled. With his current strength, he could easily get a lot of Qianzun points. The 30th stage gives you 10 Qianzun points. The 35th stage gives you 20 Qianzun points. The 40th stage gives you 40 Qianzun points, and the rewards increase every 5 stages. Lin Feng entered the challenge space. The top AI's voice sounded in his ears, and the Emperor's concealment in his hand shone. He also wanted to know how many stages he could pass with his current strength. 40 stages, you can pass the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand stage. 50 stages, there is hope of entering the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand stage. 60 stages, there is hope of entering the top 100. Chapter 24-23. The Seventh God Realm, Tai Qiong God Realm. This was the gathering place of the 7th Mercenary Alliance's supremacies. It was a vast and boundless land. In the center of the God Realm, there was a giant statue of a half-naked man. He was bold and unrestrained, holding a terrifying blade that was filled with killing intent. It was the founder of the 7th Mercenary Alliance, Patriarch Tai Qiong. The Tai Qiong God Realm was the size of tens of thousands of stars. The supremacies of the 7th Mercenary Alliance all had a fixed residence here, which was connected to their own residence in the 7th God Realm. From time to time, the supremacies of the 7th Mercenary Alliance could be seen gathering and chatting or discussing the heavenly Tao. After all, the supremacies had an endless lifespan, and there were many things they could do. After becoming a supremacies, only a small number of them would settle down in the original star realm, less than 5%. After all, the level of the cultivation place was there. Cultivating in the astral boundary was far less effective than cultivating in the 7th divine realm. The Qianzun city was directly connected to the Qianzun training camp. Supremacies came and went from time to time. Most of them were there to pick suitable disciples. In a long path of cultivation, the relationship between master and disciple was the most stable. Picking a good disciple was a good choice for the supremacies. They could not only guide the younger generation, but also increase the strength of their own faction. If the supremacies were lucky enough to get a disciple who was better than the master, then the disciple would be a great help to the supremacies' cultivation. However, the training camp had its own rules. The supremacies could only find the information of the top 1,000 newbies. Of course, there were some special ones. For example, the Qianzun City Lord. As the City Lord, he controlled the Qianzun City Lord's faction. He had his own privileges. Plus, he was a founding member of the 7th Mercenary Alliance and was an overlord of the same generation as Patriarch Tai Qiong. He had a superior position in the 7th Mercenary Alliance. The Qianzun City was a huge force in the 7th Mercenary Alliance. As the City Lord, he had a high status. The Qianzun City Lord would not condescend. He had already handed over all the affairs of the Qianzun City to his disciples. The 5 regions each had a mayor and 10 vice-mayors. Huangzun was in charge of 1,000 supremacies. Each of the 5 regions had 1 governor and 10 deputy governors. Huangzun was in charge of 1,000 venerables. The one in charge of the universe area was naturally a knight. He only needed to send an avatar of consciousness to supervise it. Every type of training facility had a knight in charge, of which Lu Yi Knight and Wu Houyang Knight were in charge of the combat simulation space. Oh, it's that newbie Lin Feng again. Honorable Lloyd naturally had an impression of the newcomer Lin Feng. This was because not long ago, Lin Feng had defeated Kabir in the virtual space. Inyang Brat. Venerable Wu Houyang laughed heartily. He and Venerable Troy had seen the battle between Lin Feng and Kabir, but Lin Feng did not know about it. In fact, most of the cultivators in the training camp did not know about it. Their every move was not only monitored by the top-notch artificial intelligence, but also under the eyes of the Venerable Ones. He's finally started. Honorable Lloyd smiled. I thought he wasn't interested in Qianzun points. That punk's comprehension is very high. It's rare for him to break through while fighting Kabir. Venerable Wu Houyang frowned. He obviously had a deep impression of Lin Feng. His combat simulation space strength is close to the pinnacle God Master limit. Honorable Lloyd said, around 50, it'll depend on luck if he can make it past 50. Venerable Wu Houyang said, it's already not bad to make it past 50, 160 Qianzun points. Honorable Lloyd said, adding on the previous 4 rewards, he'll get a total of 310 Qianzun points. That's not a small amount. Venerable Wu Houyang said, in this era, there are 4 who can make it past 50, including him. Honorable Lloyd nodded. Huang Qinyan is very terrifying. She actually made it past 60 so easily. We haven't seen such a newcomer in hundreds of eras. Venerable Wu Houyang said, General Man, although Yin Handy is not bad and can be considered one of the best among the rookies of the previous eras, compared to Huang Qinyan, this one of 1,000 eras, she's really not on the same level. Honorable Lloyd smiled. Huang Qinyan. There are several Huang Zun masters who want to take her as a disciple through teacher. They chatted casually. The two venerables had seen all kinds of geniuses. They'd even seen Huang Qinyan, who made it past 60 as a newcomer. There were even newcomers who made it past 70, so they weren't surprised. Oh, so fast, he made it past 35. Very easy. That punk's strength seems to have increased a bit. Yes, his blade technique has improved a bit. He perfectly comprehended the dangerous heaven region's great avalanche concept. Haha, that punk's comprehension is terrifying. He's at the top of the human geniuses. Yeah, his potential isn't bad either. He's definitely in the top 10 of this era's newcomers. You're talking as if he's not strong now. Look, he's about to make it past 40. Honorable Lloyd and Honorable Wu Hoyong laughed and chatted. After countless eras, they were closer than brothers. They watched Lin Feng pass through the simulation space and commented with interest from time to time. Not bad. He made it past 50, Honorable Lloyd praised. That's about it, Honorable Wu Hoyong said. Just as we estimated, his combat strength in the combat zone is close to the peak Divine Master limit. The two venerables had seen Lin Feng defeat Kabir, so they knew. From 51 to 55, it's a new level, Honorable Lloyd said. Other than Huang Qinyan, most of the newcomers are at this level. Haha, the combat strength of the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand Competition. Honorable Wu Hoyong smiled. If he can make it past 55, he'll have a better chance of entering the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand Competition. In every era, only 2 or 3 newcomers can enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand Competition. Huang Qinyan definitely can. Honorable Lloyd nodded. Honorable Wu Hoyong smiled. Who doesn't know that she can even make it to the top 100? Honorable Lloyd said. Those old people aren't to be trifled with. Huang Qinyan lacks some experience. She has the strength, but she might not be able to enter the top 100. As he said that, Honorable Lloyd was stunned. Honorable Wu Hoyong's eyes widened as he stared at the image sent by the top AI. He pressed his finger on his heavenly quartz acupuncture point and raised his eyebrows. This little guy has passed 51. Concept Heavenly Tao. Honorable Lloyd's eyes lit up. His concept Heavenly Tao has already reached the minute subtlety level. No way. How long has it been since he comprehended it? Honorable Wu Hoyong's eyes widened. From unrated to normal, then to minute subtlety. In less than 5,000 years, Honorable Lloyd and Honorable Wu Hoyong looked at each other in shock. They had seen people with high comprehension, but they had never seen one with such ridiculous comprehension. Chapter 24-24. Lin Feng's expression remained calm. Even though the War Saber Emperor concealment in his hand didn't have any power and his combat strength was greatly reduced, it allowed him to focus more on his saber arts, perfectly merging with the intent Heavenly Tao. The scene of the Great Avalanche was extremely clear, and he could even feel it. Minute subtlety. After passing the power coefficient level 35 in the dangerous heaven region, Lin Feng entered the intent world. After 200 years, he finally broke through the bottleneck and reached the minute subtlety level. The intent world rewarded him with 200 Qinzun points, double the amount for a newbie. The intent world only rewarded him with 20 Qian revered points for comprehending the intent Heavenly Tao. The difference was huge. After reaching the requirements, the deeper he went, the higher the level, the more rewards he would get. 53rd level, 54th level, Great Avalanche. Lin Feng's intent world followed, and the 3rd level of the 9 heavens of light and darkness erupted. The War Saber Emperor concealment crazily suppressed the demon race expert in front of him, and his saber arts descended like an avalanche, pushing the demon race expert to the bottom of the saber. Instantly, he was killed. 55th level passed. Congratulations, newbie number 8484. You have received 320 Qian revered points. The top AI's voice sounded, and Lin Feng smiled in satisfaction. Even though the combat simulation space didn't reward newbies like the intent world, the Qian revered points for every 5 levels was more than enough. Here, you could get as many Qian revered points as you were strong. 60th level, 640 Qian revered points. Lin Feng really wanted to get it, but he was confident in passing the 51st to 55th levels, but he wasn't so sure about passing the 56th to 60th levels. This was because the 60th level represented the limit of a peak godlord. In the combat domain, this was extremely terrifying. Without a bloodline or a heavenly Dao treasure, he could reach the limit of a peak godlord with just his own strength, comprehension of laws, intent, and heavenly Dao. Qian revered city, universe district. It's finally over. Honorable Lu Yi sighed. Amazing. Honorable Wu Houyang praised. The 57th stage, Honorable Lloyd said. What a surprise. Wu Houyang nodded his head. Previously, he couldn't even pass the 30th level. In such a short time, he actually passed the 57th level. Who would believe that? Loyola said, the combat domain is in charge of that side. They'll probably be shocked as well. That's right. Wu Houyang smiled and said, let's not tell them. Let them have a good scare, With this kid's current strength, it shouldn't be a problem for him to enter the second stage of the Great Scouring Sands. Venerable Wu Houyang said, yes, but it's impossible to enter the top 100. Loyalist rolled his eyes. You're asking for too much. Even if you can pass the 60th stage, it'll be very difficult for you to enter the top 100. Venerable Wu Houyang said, however, there are quite a few people who can enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sands in this era. Huang Qinyin, Yin Handy, Man Jiang, Lin Feng, there are at least 4 of them. Honor Lu, he nodded. Huang Qinyin can even look forward to it. If she's lucky, she might even be able to enter the top 100. Venerable Wu Houyang smiled and said, you're making me a little impatient. Loyola laughed loudly. It's about to begin. 2061, Qian revered points. Lin Feng came out of the combat simulation space in a good mood. What did Qian revered points mean? Training resources, training speed. The various training facilities in the universe area were the best in the universe. With enough Qian revered points, one could enjoy all of this and quickly increase their strength. From there, one could earn more Qian revered points, forming a positive cycle. Level 50 combat simulation space, surpassing 95% will enter the first stage of the Great Elimination Sands, gaining Qian revered points, double for newcomers. Level 55 combat simulation space. Chances of entering the second stage of the Great Elimination Sands are very high. I'm a newcomer, although I don't have much experience, but with level 57 combat simulation space, my chances of entering the second stage of the Great Elimination Sands are over 80%. Experience was important, but strength was even more important. Lin Feng was very clear on this point. Entering the first stage of the Great Elimination Sands would give 100 Qian revered points, double for newcomers. Any cultivator entering for the first time would receive 100 Qian revered points, 50 for the second time, 25 for the third time, and no reward for the fourth time and above. Entering the second stage of the Great Elimination Sands would give 300 Qian revered points, double for newcomers. Any cultivator entering for the first time would receive 300 Qian revered points, 150 for the second time, 75 for the third time, and no reward for the fourth time and above. The top 100 roulette battles would give 1,000 Qian revered points, double for newcomers, but it was almost useless. This was because in hundreds of eras, there hadn't been a single newcomer with such terrifying strength. Every time other cultivators entered the top 100 roulette battles, their Qian revered points would decrease by 100, until the lowest reward was 100 Qian revered points. All of this was clearly recorded in the top AI's information. The goal is to enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sands, double 800 Qian revered points. Lin Feng naturally hoped to maximize the profits of the combat simulation space. The double reward for newcomers would only be given once. Qian revered points would become harder and rarer as one progressed. As for the top 100 roulette battles, Lin Feng didn't even think about it. It was too difficult. Passing 60 levels in the combat simulation space only gave him a 30% to 50% chance. Only by passing 65 levels would he have an 80% chance. His own 57 levels were too far away. 8 years passed in the blink of an eye. In the blink of an eye, it was the year 4900 of this era. This was one of the two great events of the training camps. Different from the survival domain, the two camps tested separately before the roulette battles. Only when the top 100 roulette battles would they meet. This was also known as the outpost battles of the two camps. The honorables of both camps paid close attention to this. However, just like the survival domain, the hidden revered training camp always lost more than they won. Good luck. Let's do it. We must get a spot for the first stage of the Great Elimination Sands. Lin Feng, Yuan Shiyu, and Ouyang encouraged each other. In comparison, Yuan Shiyu had the most pressure on his shoulders. Because he was also a newcomer, he also wanted to get double Qin revered points. As for Ouyang, she had no pressure at all. There was no difference between the first round of elimination and the second or third round of elimination. Brother Lin, you can definitely enter the first stage of the Great Elimination Sands. Bring glory to the newcomers of our Xing Feng division. Yuan Shiyu laughed heartily. In his opinion, Lin Feng was indeed qualified to enter the first stage of the Great Elimination Sands with his level 35 ranking in the dangerous natural region. Big Brother Lin can definitely do it. Ouyang wagged her tail and smiled sweetly. The two didn't know that Lin Feng's strength wasn't what they had seen. Okay, Lin Feng laughed. Maybe if I'm lucky, I can even enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sands. Go to hell. Yuan Shiyu laughed. Ouyang also laughed. Big Brother Lin really likes to joke. The three laughed for a while and relaxed. Soon, the voice of the top AI resounded in the universe area. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. Rays of light flashed and disappeared from the universe area as they entered the combat simulation domain. Chapter 24-25. The actual combat domain was actually the same as the actual combat simulation space, being flattened and enlarged. Expanding the actual combat simulation space infinitely was the actual combat domain. Chua! The moment he entered, Lin Feng noticed the change in his form. It was exactly the same as the real combat simulation space, so he did not feel too unfamiliar. Although it was his first time entering, Lin Feng was not nervous. The 57th stage of the actual combat simulation space gave Lin Feng enough confidence. Unless his luck was extremely bad and he met a super expert like Pu Kiki at the first moment of the battle. But he would not be that unlucky, right? Hua, Lin Feng completely entered the actual combat domain. The moment he appeared, shadows appeared around him, flashing with white light. However, he could not move at this time because the actual combat domain was activated at the same time. 1,000 seconds of preparation time. After that, the actual combat domain would officially start. Cultivators who did not enter the actual combat domain on time would be considered to have given up and would be eliminated. Not only would they not get any benefits, but they would also be given a severe warning. If there was no reasonable reason, they would be eliminated from the Hidden Zone training camp. Even if there was a reasonable reason, if they did not enter the actual combat domain twice, they would still be kicked out. The Hidden Zone training camp had strict rules. Everything here, including cultivation, was free. However, the prerequisite was that you had to follow the rules of the camp and follow the arrangements of the 7th Mercenary Alliance unconditionally. This was something that the 5 great leaders valued very much. So many flashes of light appeared in the surroundings. There were hundreds of flashes of light within 10 kilometers. They were all cultivators from the training camp. The first 3 rounds of the competition were all chaotic battles. It was a competition of experience, strategy, combat power, and a little bit of luck. Including the newcomers, there are more than 10 million cultivators. 90% of them will be eliminated in the first round. When there are only 1 million left, the first round will end. Lin Feng was very calm. In other words, every cultivator that advanced would have to kill around 9 other cultivators. Of course, most of them were chaotic battles. The most important thing was not how strong you were, but how strong your survival ability was. Without the Heavenly Tao treasure, everyone's defense is about the same with the same body and soul. In the actual combat domain, attacking is the most important. If you don't kill your competitors, you will be killed. He had never thought of waiting for death and relying on survival to get through this round. It was very simple. If he had the strength, he would fight. The more you cower, the more afraid you are, the more trouble will find you. Wah! The white light gradually dimmed. All the practitioners' hearts were in their mouths. The clear voice of the top-grade AI suddenly rang in their ears. In an instant, all the white light disappeared. The practitioners who reacted quickly instantly made a decision. Those who attacked, and those who fled. After all, he was very clear about where he was and how many cultivators were around him. Whether he should fight or stay, he could be sure in these 1,000 seconds. Lin Feng was the same. So, Lin Feng immediately launched an attack. Facing a cultivator who was retreating, the image of a mega avalanche appeared in the void. In a split second, the War Saber Emperor concealment descended. His attack power was comparable to the time when he defeated Kabir. No, the blue-eyed cultivator was shocked. He did not expect to meet such a strong opponent at the beginning. He hurriedly blocked, but defense was useless in the actual combat domain. In an instant, he was killed by the War Saber Emperor concealment, turning into white light and disappearing. Death in the actual combat domain was not real death. The body itself was not real. Death only meant that the battle had failed. The consciousness returned to the original body, and the test in the actual combat domain eliminated. Ding! Every time he killed a cultivator, Lin Feng's score would rise. The strength, score, and ranking of the cultivator were all recorded in detail by the top-grade AI. The stronger the cultivator he killed, the higher his ranking in the previous era. The higher his current score, the more points Lin Feng would receive. Lin Feng did not know this because he had never studied in detail. Lin Feng did not care much about the score list at the beginning. Now, he was more concerned about the actual combat domain test. Naturally, he would not care about the score list. Moreover, the score list itself required the top-grade AI to perform complicated calculations. If a cultivator calculated this for no reason, it would be like putting the cart before the horse. He would do what he should do. It was his first time in the actual combat domain, and he had no experience. What should he do? Fight. Fight continuously, find the feeling, the atmosphere, and the combat state. Even if this was not his real body, as the battle progressed, his consciousness would gradually burn up and he would throw himself into the battle. He would be more focused, more powerful, and more powerful. Chi. Lin Feng's decisiveness in killing shocked all the cultivators within a 10-kilometer radius. Previously, there were some cultivators who thought Lin Feng was a pushover. However, when they saw Lin Feng kill several cultivators consecutively, including the Grade 1 geniuses who were ranked within the top 100,000 in the previous era, their eyes widened in shock. They did not know Lin Feng, but they knew the Level 1 geniuses from the previous era. This newcomer's strength was terrifying. Run. None of them were idiots. The group of geniuses knew what it meant to seek luck and avoid calamity. They knew what it meant to not provoke someone. Having participated in the actual combat domain many times, they were quite experienced. This kind of person who started a massacre at the beginning and attacked other cultivators crazily was either a madman or he had absolute confidence in his own strength. Mega Avalanche. The avalanche rumbled as countless snowballs smashed a cultivator to death. Wu Er, who was ranked 108997 in the previous era and almost became a Level 1 genius, did not expect that he would be eliminated in the first round of the actual combat domain. In the previous era, he had entered the third round of the actual combat domain. In this era, Wu Er came to challenge with full confidence. His goal was to enter the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand. Who would have thought that he would be severely injured at the beginning of the first round? He was inexplicably eliminated by a newcomer with no information at all. Moreover, it was an instant kill. Bastard. In the spatial zone, Wu Er appeared at the teleportation point with a pale face. Around him was a group of cultivators who had been eliminated like him. All of them stared blankly at this slightly famous expert in the spatial zone, who is currently ranked 27561 on the ranking board. Wu Er was actually eliminated in the first round. Perhaps he was unlucky and met a cultivator he could not afford to provoke. All the cultivators guessed in their hearts. This kind of thing happened frequently. Wu Er was not the first, and he would not be the last. In the past, there had even been a cultivator in the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand who was eliminated in the first round. That was because he had met a super expert in the top 100 roulette tournament. To those top experts, there was no difference between killing a cultivator in the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand and a cultivator in the first round. Chapter 24-26. Gone? After a round of killing, Lin Feng suddenly realized that there were no more cultivators within 10 kilometers. He couldn't help but laugh. This group of fellows, they sure run fast. Lin Feng smiled and didn't care. There was no need to be so serious in the first round. Since they had escaped, there was no need for him to chase after them. What was the use of eliminating a few more? It was fine as long as he advanced. Even if he wanted to get a score, how many scores could he get in the first and second rounds? Unlike Lin Feng's area, the other areas in the combat zone were extremely fierce at this time. Cultivators were being eliminated every moment. It was normal for a cultivator like Wu, who was ranked 20,000, to be eliminated. Now, nearly 100 of the top 10,000 had been eliminated. They were strong, but they lacked a little luck. Or rather, their strength was still not enough. 6 million for million, 2 million. The speed of elimination gradually decreased, but it was still fast. Lin Feng held the saber and stood on the vast and boundless land, waiting for other cultivators to arrive. However, none of them arrived. Many cultivators rushed over and saw this empty land and Lin Feng alone. In an instant, they turned around and fled. What a joke! Did he think they were idiots? Congratulations to newcomer number 8484 for entering the second round of the combat zone. The battle will begin in 10 years. Then, Lin Feng's environment changed instantly. A white light shrouded him, and his body in the combat zone immediately returned to normal. He entered a place similar to the combat simulation space, which was a bit similar to the concept world. However, he was alone and provided for rest. Brother Chi mentioned that this is not just a rest to restore combat state. For most cultivators, this is a benefit of the combat zone, which is comparable to a top-notch training facility. The body and soul provided by this top-notch artificial intelligence system are perfectly compatible with everything of the top-notch artificial intelligence. You can cultivate the saber techniques, sword techniques, claw techniques, and so on in the database of the top-notch artificial intelligence. You can also learn some secret techniques of the venerables, comprehend the heavenly Tao, and so on. Time was limited. After all, the combat zone itself only had 100 years. However, the more limited the time, the better it was, the more it could increase one's combat strength. Mega Avalanche. Lin Feng flipped through the top-notch artificial intelligence's database to search. He had made all the preparations from the very beginning. If he could comprehend the Mega Avalanche in the dangerous natural region, the other experts would naturally be able to as well. Whether it was learning or using it as a reference, it was a good choice. It was obviously unrealistic for him to recultivate and learn a new saber move. Moreover, only the saber moves that he created himself could unleash 100%, 120%, or even 150% of its power. Whoosh! He searched for similar saber techniques and found many of them. Although only a small portion was recorded in the database of the top-level artificial intelligence, the amount accumulated over the years was extremely large. Let's take a look at this book first. Lin Feng focused his mind and quickly finished reading the first set of the Great Avalanche Saber Art. The Heavenly Tao was very similar to his Great Avalanche. They were both at the minute subtlety level, but the saber art was different. 10,000 people could have 10,000 different views on the same thing, not to mention comprehending a natural phenomenon and creating a set of saber techniques. Everyone had different perception, different feelings, different circumstances, and even different moods. Naturally, the saber techniques created would be different. There was no good or bad, only whether or not it was suitable for oneself. For a set of saber techniques, the Heavenly Tao was there and merged with the saber technique. Therefore, the lower limit of the saber technique would not be bad. The only difference was what was used to drive it. Lin Feng used the myriad phenomena heavenly Tao, which was the fusion of the laws of the universe. Some used the space heavenly Tao, while others used the time heavenly Tao. The demons were better at using force to drive it. Reference, comprehension. Lin Feng did not plan to learn new saber techniques. Time was limited. The most correct way was to improve the saber techniques that he already had. It was also the only way to increase the power of his saber techniques in 100 years. One set after another. With his body in the combat domain, he could easily perform the saber techniques recorded by the top-level artificial intelligence. Lin Feng experienced it firsthand and had a lot of thoughts. Let's try the more exquisite heavenly Tao. Lin Feng stopped searching for the minute's subtlety and switched to the higher-level exquisite heavenly Tao. It was the same great avalanche, but it was much more powerful. This time, the number of saber techniques that he found was obviously much fewer. After all, the stronger the heavenly Tao, the harder it was to create a saber technique that was compatible with it. The requirements for the cultivator would be even higher. Let's try this. Lin Feng quickly chose one of the sets. He immersed himself in it. The saber in his hand danced with the saber technique manual. The concept blended into the world. It was no longer a flat surface, nor was there an uneven picture. Instead, it became very exquisite, detailed, and beautiful. He had truly completed a messy, incomplete picture scroll. A set of saber techniques was completed. I have no clue at all. Lin Feng sighed. He had just comprehended the minute subtlety heavenly Tao. It was really difficult to comprehend the higher-level exquisite heavenly Tao. Just going from ordinary to subtlety would take him a lot of time. From subtlety to exquisite, it would probably take 10 times more time. Let's try again. Lin Feng did not intend to give up because this was a very clear path for him to reach a higher level of combat strength. Since he could go from ordinary to subtlety, then from subtlety to exquisite, the path of the heavenly Tao was completely feasible. The key was the speed and method of comprehension, as well as enough time. One set after another. Lin Feng performed different exquisite heavenly Tao saber techniques. He wanted to distinguish between them and see if he could get any inspiration. However, it was indeed difficult. Year after year passed, he still did not gain anything. The progress of his saber techniques had reached a bottleneck. Exquisite, exquisite. Lin Feng kept performing the saber techniques in the top-level artificial intelligence database to find the comprehension of the exquisite heavenly Tao. However, contrary to his wishes, he did not gain anything. It's so difficult. Huang Qinyan, who is also a newcomer like me, has already perfectly grasped the exquisite concept of heavenly Tao. She is really amazing. Lin Feng admired her in his heart. Only after cultivating did he know how difficult and illusory the exquisite concept of heavenly Tao was. Even after experiencing the level 35 mega avalanche, he did not gain any enlightenment. Or, I shouldn't continue and change to another path? Lin Feng was hesitant. Nearly 10 years had passed, and he had not even taken the first step on this path. This proved that his current cultivation was far from enough. There was still a long time in the actual combat domain. If he continued to waste time, it would be disadvantageous to him. Passing the 57th stage did not mean that he could definitely enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand. He had to improve again. I'll think about it later. Pass the second round of the actual combat domain first. The voice of the top-level artificial intelligence rang in his mind again. Lin Feng sighed lightly. In the second round, the 1 million cultivators were eliminated to 100,000. It's starting. Lin Feng's eyes burned with fighting spirit. Chapter 24-27. High mountains, high ridges, high peaks. On top of the mountain range, a male warrior was emitting a strong demonic aura. He was carrying an axe and looking down on the little ones like an overlord. The complicated patterns on his face represented a powerful bloodline. It was Ningjiu, a demonic warrior of the demon clan. In the last era, he was ranked 17,298 above Kabir. In this epoch, The demon race expert Ning Jio's ranking had already squeezed into the top 10,000. His actual combat results were much better than Ka Bishing's. He had entered the third round for 2 epics consecutively. In the last epic, he had even squeezed into the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand competition. It's Ning Jio. A human youth rushed over. When he saw Ning Jio, he was so scared that his face turned pale. He quickly flew away. Cowardly human worm. Ning Jio snorted, his face full of disdain. They had the same body quality, but he wasn't good at flying. Naturally, he couldn't catch up with the other human warriors. He didn't need to. As long as he eliminated enough cultivators, he would naturally enter the third round as time passed. The experienced Ning Mo naturally knew the principle of protecting his own safety. Another one. Ning Jio looked into the distance, his lips curling up in disdain. He thought that this human youth would be like the previous one and run away immediately. However, that wasn't the case. You have guts. Ning Jio raised his axe. With a roar, the image of a majestic lion appeared in the air. A terrifying power came from the axe, causing the earth to collapse and the mountains to collapse. The rumbling was deafening. Voila, the image that suddenly appeared in the air was filled with the power of the Tao of heaven. It directly crushed the majestic lion. It was a warblade with a strong, murderous aura. When it landed, it caused an avalanche in all directions, burying the entire mountain range. It also buried the shocked Ning Jio. The axe broke, and Ning Jio was killed. The fifth one. A calm voice echoed in the mountain range. Lin Feng's figure disappeared. The second round was different from the first round. Firstly, the number of cultivators participating in the battle had been greatly reduced from 10 million to 1 million. Secondly, the rules had also changed slightly. One could advance directly by killing 10 other cultivators. Of course, cultivators who prioritize survival could still protect themselves. Once enough cultivators were eliminated, they could advance to the next round. You can freely choose which one is better and which one is worse. The former has a higher rating, while the latter has a lower rating. In this round of challenges, the space in the field of combat would be gradually compressed, and the time spent would be much more than in the first round. However, to Lin Feng, there wasn't much difference. The difference was that he didn't have a choice in the first round, but in this round, he could freely choose. The 10th one. Lin Feng quickly killed the 10th cultivator as if he was blowing off dust. As a ray of light flashed in front of him, Lin Feng knew that he had successfully entered the third round of the combat field test. This was very easy for him now. Congratulations to newcomer number 8484 for successfully advancing. You are the 992nd cultivator to advance. You have received double Qianzun points as a reward of 50. A rather unexpected voice sounded out as a white light wrapped around Lin Feng and brought him into an independent space. The scene around him changed instantly. Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. There's a reward? The rules didn't say so. Lin Feng couldn't help but laugh. It seemed like it was something like an Easter egg. Most of the cultivators in the training camp probably didn't know about it. However, the reward wasn't much, only 25 Qian revered points. As a newcomer, he received double, so he received 50 Qian revered points. It's not bad to be able to enter the intent world test again. Since it was a waste not to take it, Lin Feng was naturally satisfied. That's right. The training camp advocated using one's own strength to obtain and advance. Killing 10 cultivators in a row to advance meant more effort and more danger, but the rewards would naturally be better. Many cultivators should know about this rule. Lin Feng thought. He didn't actually rest much, but compared to the cultivators who knew about the rules, he was more casual. After all, they acted with a goal, and he didn't know about it before. If he knew, his ranking would be higher. I'll probably get Qian revered points in the third round. Lin Feng already knew, so he continued with his previous cultivation. Just like the first round, there was a 10-year rest period. Should he comprehend the exquisite intent world Tao? There's still plenty of time. Now, even if I have a few hundred years to simulate and comprehend, the possibility of grasping the exquisite intent world Tao is very low. There's no need to try anymore. There's a limit to the amount of time I have in the combat zone. I should use this limited time to improve Zhongli. Lin Feng had already thought it through. If one path didn't work, then there was no need to continue down it. He should change to another path first. Compared to other cultivators, he actually had a lot of room for improvement. This was because his cultivation was mixed enough. The universe area's Wanxiang Heavenly Dao, time area's Heavenly Dao, space area's Heavenly Dao, and diamond area's Heavenly Dao could all be combined with the intent world Dao. The intent world Dao was like a general of an army, while the Wanxiang Heavenly Dao, time Heavenly Dao, space Heavenly Dao, and so on were the soldiers under the general. Since the general can't be improved, then the individual soldiers can't be improved either. Then I'll just increase the number of soldiers. Lin Feng thought to himself. In the first and second round of the combat zone test, he had actually encountered many cultivators from the diamond area. They naturally didn't use their innate abilities because there was no such thing as innate abilities in the combat zone. Instead, they used the Heavenly Dao of Strength, the sublimation of one's strength technique. It was a form of matter that was derived from strength. Compared to the ethereal intent world Dao, the Heavenly Dao of Strength was much more real and clear. All matter in the universe had the existence of strength. This was the essence of the Heavenly Dao of Strength. Strength was everywhere. The Heavenly Dao of Strength also existed in every corner of the universe. Matter and strength were originally one. I have a perfect chaotic body. Once my realm and life form reach the level, I can directly become a diamond supremacy. The Heavenly Dao of Strength is very useful to me and can continue to improve. Even if I leave the combat zone, I can continue to comprehend and strengthen myself. Lin Feng understood clearly. Compared to the uncertainty of the Heavenly Dao of Time and Heavenly Dao of Space, the Heavenly Dao of Strength was undoubtedly the most certain and confident. Furthermore, it would be very troublesome to combine the Wanxiang Heavenly Dao with the Heavenly Dao of Time and Heavenly Dao of Space. After all, they were all nomological laws. However, there was no conflict with the combination of the Heavenly Dao of Strength. It would be easier and simpler. It was like the combination of two armies. Even if they couldn't be combined into one, at least there wouldn't be any rejection. There's no need to specifically search for the saber technique of the Mega Avalanche. I'll start from the foundation of the Heavenly Dao of Strength. This time, Lin Feng had a clear direction. Chapter 24-28. Strength Heavenly Dao was also known as Strength Heavenly Dao. Like Wanxiang Heavenly Dao, Time Heavenly Dao, and Space Heavenly Dao, it was directly connected to the limits of the universe's Heavenly Dao. It was divided into brute force, vitality force, extreme force, divine power, and chaos force. It was closely related to one's life level and strength. For example, the most basic form of brute force. Everyone had brute force and could unleash its power without any cultivation. However, it was different after training. Ordinary people could unleash brute force that was twice, thrice, or even higher. It was the same for divine power. God-level experts possessed divine power, and their life level was there. Even if they did not deliberately cultivate, God-level experts could unleash divine power. The stronger the physical body, the stronger the divine power. Chaos force was the power of chaos, the power that Vajra supremacies possessed. Vajra supremacies had to have a chaos body because it was given to them by the universe after they became supremacies. The power they unleashed was naturally Chaos Body. Chaos Body was also known as Chaos Body for short. However, Chaos Body, Life Body, and Extreme Force were different. Life Body was the power of life, and Extreme Force was the ultimate power. It was closely related to one's life level. What about Chaos Body? Every Vajra supremacy was the same. They all had a Chaos Body. The only difference was that their chaos body might be slightly stronger or slightly weaker. There was still a big difference in talent and bloodline. However, they were essentially the same. They were all chaos bodies and had already transcended the limit. At this time, one's comprehension of strength, heavenly Tao would have a lot of factors and effects. Initial, small success, large success, perfect, peak, extreme, and great perfection. The 7 heavenly Tao levels of chaos body could be found after a search in the top-notch artificial intelligence's database. However, only initial, small success, and large success were truly combined with saber moves and complete sets of saber techniques. Lin Feng did not know whether it was because of insufficient authority or other reasons. There was no need for him to know, because even the small success and large success heavenly Tao levels were too high for him now. If one were to comprehend divine power, one level after another, it would be more difficult toward the end. Lin Feng knew very well, especially the last few levels, peak, extreme, and great perfection. Even peak divine master demon experts with amazing talent and strength might not be able to comprehend them. Chaos body was not necessarily stronger than divine power. For example, initial and small success chaos body could not compare to extreme and great perfection divine power. However, the difficulty of comprehending it was different. I have the perfect chaos body and the chaos force. If I can comprehend the primordial chaos force, heavenly Tao, not only will my combat strength increase, but my true combat strength will also increase, Lin Feng thought. Although his current body wasn't the perfect chaotic body, he was very familiar with the perfect chaotic body. In fact, he was very familiar with it. Mastering the chaos heavenly Tao was naturally twice the result with half the effort. Furthermore, this body given to me by top-notch intelligence can directly execute the various saber techniques of the primordial chaos heavenly Tao. Combined with my own consciousness, comprehending the primordial chaos heavenly Tao is actually better than having a real body. At least for now, it's better. Lin Feng gave up the easier path of the divine power, heavenly Tao, and chose the more difficult path of the chaos heavenly Tao. After all, so what if he could comprehend the path of the way of the heavens and reach perfection? It wouldn't have much of a transformation or breakthrough in his actual combat strength, and it would be of little help to his actual combat strength. On the contrary, mixed forces had a very high upper limit. If I don't try, how do I know that I can't comprehend the chaos heavenly Tao? Lin Feng quickly immersed himself in it and chose a saber technique of the primordial chaos heavenly Tao. He used his top-notch intelligence body to execute it and truly comprehend the strength heavenly Tao. Coupled with his own understanding of the chaos force, Lin Feng gradually found that he seemed to have opened another door. Intent heavenly Tao, strength heavenly Tao. Lin Feng, who had no teacher to guide him, had taken many detours. Now that he had joined the 7th Mercenary Alliance and entered the 7th Divine Realm, all the power systems were transparent, and all the cultivation paths were like keys that opened a door. The 3rd round of the combat domain began. Lin Feng, who had the experience of the 2nd round, didn't waste any time this time. Since there was a reward of Qianzun points, he had to do his best. Moreover, he was a newcomer, so there was double the reward. The higher the ranking, the more the reward. And the reward of the 3rd round would definitely be higher than that of the 2nd round. Qi. Lin Feng's Saber Di Yin's attack seemed to be mixed with some other heavenly Tao, but it couldn't affect the minute's subtlety heavenly Tao because his comprehension was still too shallow. However, 10 years of comprehension combined with real battles was still of great help to Lin Feng's cultivation of the strength heavenly way. The 3rd, 4th, 5th, Lin Feng's path of advancement was one step at a time, fast and fierce. When he killed one, he had already prepared his next target to save time. Even so, Lin Feng still didn't plan to teleport. Only those who were truly invincible in the combat domain would dare to do so. The 3rd round, from 100,000 to 10,000. To the cultivators of the hidden Zune training camp, this was the most important part. Entering the top 10,000 would not only give a high score, it would have a huge impact on the rankings at the end of this era. More importantly, entering the Great Elimination phase would give you hidden Zune points. Entering the first stage of the Great Elimination would give you 100 Qianzun points. It was quite a lot. Level 1 geniuses who just entered the hidden revere training camp would only be rewarded 100 Qianzun points. In the forest that covered the sky, a small and skinny figure was running at a fast speed. There were 2 antennae on his forehead. His face was yellow, and he was only 1 meter tall. When he ran, his body was even smaller, completely covered by the leaves. He was the Xingfeng branch's special grade, Genius Pula. He controlled the wind law and was extremely fast. This was his second era in the hidden revered training camp. Dodge. Pula knew his own strength. To enter the first stage of the Great Elimination, he had to use his advantage, dodging. Once the time was up, he would be able to advance. Fight? That's something only foolish cultivators would do. The process isn't important. The result is. Pula, will be the only Xingfeng branch expert to enter the first stage of the Great Elimination in this era. Pula was full of confidence. Wang Zihan and Min Luo are nothing. They just entered the training camp a few eras earlier than me. Not being able to enter the top 10,000 till now, you are really embarrassing our Xingfeng branch. Pula, will definitely be able to enter the top 10,000 in the hidden revered training camp in 3 years at most. At that time, I will participate in the 7th Hidden Revered Conference and shock everyone in the Xingfeng astral boundary. So, Pu La's body was like an illusion. His control over the wind law was shocking. His talent was time. His control over the wind law was completely acquired. Hence, his combat ability was quite strong. Even if it was an open battle, it was possible for him to enter the first stage of the Great Elimination. Suddenly, swoosh, a familiar figure appeared in front of him. Teleportation? Pula opened his eyes wide in shock. Chapter 24-29. What was teleportation? Every cultivator, as long as their control over space was not too bad, could easily teleport. But who dared to? The moment one teleported, it was enough to kill 1,000 times over, especially in the actual battle region. Every genius warrior was not to be underestimated. To teleport here, unless one had invincible strength and absolute confidence in oneself. Pula saw a warrior teleporting in front of him, and his mind went blank. There were 2 possibilities. Firstly, the opponent was messing around and was a fool. But this was the Hidden Saint training camp, and every one of them was an extremely intelligent genius. Those who treated others as fools were the ones who were the fools themselves. Secondly, the opponent's fighting strength was terrifying, at least having the strength and confidence of the top 100 roulette. Damn it, Pula immediately made his move, because if he did not make his move, he would not even know how he died. He could only take advantage of the opponent's unstable state and attack. If he could heavily injure the opponent, that would be good, but if not, he could at least buy himself some time and space to escape. The dagger pierced through space. Pu La's control over the wind was too strong, suppressing the wind speed to the maximum. The dagger contained a terrifying strength, and in a blink of an eye, pierced through the figure that teleported in front of him. Fast! Die! Pu La's face was malevolent. But the opponent's attack arrived at this moment. Snowflakes fluttered in the air, like countless daggers flying out, enveloping Pula. The suppression of the concept of heaven caused Pu La's attack to be thwarted. Minute's subtlety. Pula was shocked. The dagger brought forth a snowflake, but it only lightly injured the opponent that teleported over. Wind rhythm enveloped him. Pula was already scared out of his wits. Facing an opponent whose concept of heaven was 1 level higher than him, he had no chance of winning. He anxiously tried to escape, but from above, below, from all directions, the pressure directly enveloped him. It's over. A familiar voice resounded in Pu La's ears. The terrifying strength tore him to pieces, and when he finally saw the clear appearance of the familiar figure, Pu La's eyes were wide open. He never thought that the one who eliminated him would be the newbie he saw at the tavern in the leisure plaza. Lin Feng. This name appeared in his mind. Pu La's consciousness had already returned to his original body, and he was stunned in place. He had lost. He was surrounded by the familiar universe region environment. Along with the other eliminated cultivators, all of them had ugly expressions as they gritted their teeth. They were just a little bit away from breaking out. But just that little bit was enough to make the difference between heaven and earth. He's Lin Feng, the newbie from Xingfeng branch. No, 640 on the newcomer ranking of the dangerous heaven region. The little guy with Qi Ruolin. Pula remembered everything. His mouth was half open and his eyes were filled with shock. After returning, he had actually looked up Lin Feng's information. After all, they both belonged to the Xingfeng branch. However, he didn't pay too much attention to it. After all, he was level 40 in the dangerous heaven region, which was 5 levels higher than Lin Feng. But right now, in a real battle, the heavenly Tao of minute subtlety. What a terrifying blade art. Pula felt a lingering fear. I was actually insta-killed by him. Pula's strength lay in the fusion of the wind law and the time law. As for the cultivation of the 10,000 manifestations heavenly Tao, the level of the concept heavenly Tao was only at the ordinary level. He did not have any self-created sword arts or dagger arts. In the field of actual combat, he could only be considered one of the best peak divine masters. However, when Lin Feng defeated Kabir, his actual combat power was already close to the limits of a peak divine master. And now, he was even stronger. Congratulations to newcomer number 8484 for successfully advancing. You are the 477th cultivator to advance. You have received 200 double revered points. The voice of the top AI sounded again. Lin Feng returned to the independent space and smiled. 477, not bad. His ranking had doubled from the second round, which was what Lin Feng had expected. He would not have a turn in the top 100 roulette battle. The top 100 cultivators, there would definitely be at least level 60 in the simulation space. Lin Feng estimated that if his luck was not too bad, he should be able to enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand. However, among the top 1,000 cultivators in the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand, he should be in the middle. These cultivators would definitely try their best to kill other cultivators in the second and third rounds to advance and obtain revered points. Thus, it was reasonable for him to be ranked 477. After all, the double Qian revered points reward was about the same as the top 100 Qian revered points reward. If I didn't teleport at the end, my ranking would be at least 500. Lin Feng had coincidentally sensed someone he knew, which was why he had teleported to intercept him. Otherwise, he would not have taken the risk. Lin Feng knew how strong the level 40 Pu Lane of the dangerous heaven region was. Teleporting might cause some injuries, but Pu La happened to be the 10th, so it did not matter. As long as he could kill him and eliminate him, he would successfully advance. The result was as expected. The third round is the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand. This time, I have 20 years to cultivate. When the mixed strength heavenly path used its blade technique, I felt something. If I continue to cultivate in this direction, I should be able to gain something. Lin Feng quickly forgot about the test. He was not interested in the preparation for the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand. How to increase his strength in this limited time was what he cared about. Universe Area, Plaza Lounge Bar. Qi Ruo Lin, Yuan Shiyu, and Ouyang were gathered together. Compared to Qi Ruo Lin's helplessness, Yuan Shiyu and Ouyang's expressions were normal. This was because they had already been eliminated. Yuan Shiyu fell in the second round, and Ouyang in the first. So depressing, meeting the poisonous spider widow. Qi Ruo Lin mumbled as he sat down and drank. The 5,781st ranked super warrior from the last era. His luck is so bad. It is indeed a pity. Yuan Shiyu consoled. Although he knew that with Qi Ruo Lin's strength, even if he did not meet the poisonous spider widow, he would not be able to enter the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand. However, they were all good friends, so he had to comfort him. Yes, Brother Qi, your luck is too bad. Ouyang pouted. Forget it. Qi Ruo Lin smiled bitterly and picked up his cup. Actually, I also knew that I would fall in this round. Being able to enter the third round is already a breakthrough. Don't be discouraged, Brother Qi. Yuan Shiyu toasted. With your improvement speed, you will definitely be able to enter the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand in the next era. Haha. Yuan Shiyu, don't comfort me. Chi Ruolin laughed. Wang Zhan, Min Luo, and the others are unable to enter the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand. How can I qualify? Speaking of which, entering the third round is also due to luck. Yuan Shiyu smiled. Everything depends on effort. Chi Ruolin clicked his tongue. However, this era's Wang Zhan and Min Luo both have hopes of entering the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand. They might even be able to win some face for our Xing Feng division. Look, the third round of the Great Elimination Sand is about to end. Yuan Shiyu said. Oh, Chi Ruolin's eyes lit up. Let me see the Xing Feng division's list. Chapter 2430. The name list of the combat domain's advancement was not a secret. It could be checked from the previous epochs. For example, Lin Feng had checked Ka Bixing's performance in the combat domain in the previous epochs. The name list could be checked from the 10,000 cultivators who reached the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand. It could also be checked from each Astral Worlds branch to see how many cultivators from each Astral World had advanced and how many had been eliminated. Competition were everywhere in the Hidden Revered training camp. I remember that our Xing Feng branch had 293 cultivators, and only 5 of them reached the third round. Yuan Shiyu said, Our luck this epoch is pretty good. Yes. Chi Ruolin said, Pu La and I were lucky, but Wang Zihan and Meng Luo were the strongest in our Xing Feng branch. They also reached the third round in the previous epoch, so it's not surprising that they reached the third round in this epoch. The most surprised one should be Big Brother Lin. The little fox Oyangi covered her mouth and laughed. Yuan Shiyu laughed. Brother Lin is always so surprising. Chi Ruolin nodded. Lin Feng's result in the dangerous natural region is about the same as mine. Moreover, his life force is not high, so his ability in the combat domain should be stronger. It's normal for him to reach the third round if his luck is better. Maybe Big Brother Lin can reach the Great Elimination Sand stage. Oyangi smiled sweetly. That's impossible. Chi Ruolin smiled. The further you go, the lower the chance of luck. I'm not saying that Lin Feng is weak. On the contrary, Lin Feng is one of the geniuses with the most potential I've ever seen. It's only halfway through this epoch, and his dangerous natural region is already at level 35. His future is limitless. Yuan Shiyu agreed. Brother Lin is very strong. If he reaches the Great Elimination Sand stage in the next epoch, I won't be surprised. Chi Ruolin smiled and agreed. Oh, Oyangi's lips curled up as she pondered. Suddenly, her beautiful eyes lit up. Isn't that Pu La? Chi Ruolin and Yuan Shiyu looked over. It was Pu La and Meng Tuolyuo who were inseparable. Meng Tuolyuo was still emitting a cold, demonic aura. Pu La's sallow face was extremely ugly as he gritted his teeth. Oh, Chi Ruolin looked at Pula with a faint smile. Pu La glared and walked over angrily. Chi Ruolin, what do you mean? Are you gloating over my misfortune? Chi Ruolin shrugged. I'm the same as you. I've just been eliminated. What's there to be happy about? Pula snorted angrily. You were eliminated because you are not strong enough. Chi Ruolin laughed. Aren't you? Of course not. Pula said angrily. If it wasn't for that Lin Feng. Damn it, that bastard. We're all from the same Xing Feng branch. This bastard actually dared to attack me. Damn it. Chi Ruolin, Yuan Shiyu, and Oyangi were stunned. Lin Feng? You were eliminated by Lin Feng? Chi Ruolin Jun asked in surprise. Pu La's strength was much higher than his. He was a true level 40 player in the dangerous natural region. You already know the answer. Pu La glared at Chi Ruolin fiercely and scanned the crowd of practitioners. Tell Lin Feng to wait for me. Pula, will remember this, you bastard. Meng Tuo, let's go. After saying that, Pu La angrily snorted and left, leaving behind the dumbfounded crowd. It took a long time before he came to his senses. Brother Lin is really amazing, Yuan Shiyu said with a sigh. Haha, this is really satisfying. Chi Ruolin laughed loudly. That Pu La was so arrogant. He actually lost to Lin Feng and was eliminated by a newcomer. He lost all his face. Oyangi also covered her mouth and laughed. Brother Lin is too ruthless. Yuan Shiyu laughed. I didn't expect them to meet each other. Pula can't take this line down. So what if they're both from the Xingfeng branch? He's not familiar with Brother Lin, so there's no need to let him win. Of course there's no need. If Pula was strong enough, he would have already eliminated Lin Feng. Chiruo Lin curled his lips. With his character, he's just here to act arrogantly because he lost. While they were talking, the entire tavern in the square was bustling with activity. The results are out. Yuan Shiyu's eyes lit up. Quickly check, Chiruo Lin said. The three of them immediately activated the hidden revered Luo Jing and connected to the top AI to check the information. Very quickly, wow. Amazing. Are my eyes playing tricks on me? The three of them exclaimed at the same time. The information of all the cultivators in the Xingfeng branch was released. Among the 293 cultivators, 292 were eliminated. Only one cultivator successfully advanced to the next round. The newcomer, Lin Feng. Brother Lin is too crazy. Yuan Shiyu shook his head in disbelief. Too powerful. Chiruo Lin let out a long breath, entering the Great Elimination Sand Stage in his first battle. Lin Feng is really famous this time. Brother Lin is so awesome. Ouyang happily swung her fluffy tail, smiling from ear to ear. She was very cute. The Great Elimination Sand Stage. It was equivalent to being in the top 10,000 in the battle region. Not only would you get 100 Hidden Revered points, but you would also get a high score. All the cultivators in the Hidden Revered training camp were fighting for it. This was one of the two great events, and it was the place where you would get the highest score. If it was Wang Zihan or Min Luo, who were seniors of the Xingfeng branch, entering the Great Elimination Sand Stage wouldn't be that surprising. But Lin Feng was a complete newcomer. It was too difficult for a newcomer to enter the Great Elimination Sand Stage. Not only did he need enough strength, he also needed extraordinary battle experience. 61. Chiruo Lin's eyes lit up. There are 61 newcomers who entered the Great Elimination Sand Stage this time, double the usual number. Brother Lin is also in the top 100 of the newcomer ranking. Yuan Shiyu said, Brother Lin is so powerful. Ouyang smiled sweetly. Only 61 newcomers entered the Great Elimination Sand Stage, and he is one of them. We thought he was joking before, but who would have thought he would really enter the Great Elimination Sand Stage? Yuan Shiyu smiled. Brother Lin is just being humble. He even said that he might be lucky enough to enter the second stage. Ouyang laughed, and Chiruo Lin also laughed. If that's the case, all the cultivators in the Hidden Revere training camp would be so shocked that their jaws would drop. Not far away. Min Luo, did you see that? A handsome youth asked. I saw it. A bald man with small eyes and a dot on his head said, I didn't think our Xingfeng branch would have such a powerful newcomer. Yes. The handsome youth smiled. The two of us have been working hard for so many years, but we still haven't reached it. I didn't think a newcomer would do it. The bald man with small eyes smiled. It's better than being completely wiped out. I have a feeling that this newcomer will shock the entire Hidden Revere training camp in the future. Do we still need to talk about the future? He is already famous now. The handsome youth said, newcomers who can enter the Great Elimination Sand Stage will all become famous figures in the future. That's true. The bald man with small eyes said, he is much stronger than the two of us. Yes. The handsome youth sighed. If I have the chance, Wang Zihan, must get to know such a super genius. Chapter 2431. His name spread. Xingfeng Division's newcomer Lin Feng's name quickly spread throughout the training camp. Just as Wang Zihan said, if a newcomer could enter the Great Elimination Sand Stage, he would definitely be a big shot in the future. Especially since Lin Feng himself was a special grade genius. His potential was already recognized by the Venerables, and he was highly respected. Although his fame was not as high as Huang Qinyan, Man Jiang, Yin Handy, and the other super newcomers, but compared to the unknown before, Lin Feng was undoubtedly famous throughout the training camp. Newcomer ranking, 56th place. I entered the top 100. Lin Feng saw it himself and could not help but smile. 61 newcomers entered the Great Elimination Sand stage, and he was now 56th place on the ranking. Not bad. After all, he did not pay much attention to accumulating points. But the results in the actual combat domain were solid, and entering the Great Elimination Sand stage would give him a lot. He did not care. Lin Feng cared more about the Qian Revere points. Adding on the 200 points from the double newcomer, I have already obtained 450 Qian Revered points in the actual combat domain. Lin Feng looked at the number on the Qian Revered Luo crystal and was very satisfied. It had reached 2,511 points. Although it was not a lot, at least it was enough to buy a good peak Heavenly Path treasure. Next is the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand stage. The newcomer will get double the first time, 600 Qian Revered points. I must get it. Lin Feng nodded. There was only one chance for a newcomer to get double the reward. If he entered the second stage in the next era, he could only get 300 Qian Revered points. With my score of 57 stages in the actual combat simulation space, as long as my luck is not too bad, there should be no problem entering, 80 to 90% chance. Lin Feng nodded. No need to think so much. In 20 years, I will continue to cultivate the mixed strength Heavenly Path realm. I already felt it before. I still did not practice enough blade techniques. Unfortunately, it would be good if I could go outside. Lin Feng thought carefully. Soon, he entered the cultivation state again. This time, there were 20 years of cultivation time before the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand stage began. Actual combat domain, independent space. Ranked 107th, damn it. A demon race man with half a body red and half a body green had a ferocious look. He clenched his fists in anger. It was the super newcomer ranked 3rd on the ranking, the prince of the demon race, Yan Handy. Huang Qinyan's ranking will definitely be within the top 100. I can't lose to him again. Yan Handy gritted his teeth. He had always treated Huang Qinyan as an imaginary enemy. Yan Handy had also killed 10 cultivators in a row to enter the Great Elimination Sand stage. However, she was already ranked 107 and didn't enter the top 100. Even if she had double the amount of newbies, she would only receive 200 hidden revered points, the same as Lin Feng. From the 101st to the 500th place, the standard 100 Qian revered points. Chaos Heavenly Tao. As long as my mixed strength Heavenly Tao reaches large success, I will definitely be able to defeat Huang Qinyan. With a roar, Yan Handy continued to cultivate. He was the prince of the Cold Flame Devil clan. He was a man. He was not willing to lose to Huang Qinyan. In another independent space, a brown-eyed youth with disheveled hair was laughing maniacally. He was Kabisun, who had been defeated by Lin Feng. The humiliation of being defeated by Lin Feng turned out to be a blessing in disguise. His battle prowess rose to a whole new level. This time, after going through so many tribulations, he had finally taken the crucial step. He had entered the Great Elimination Sand stage. I have finally entered the top 10,000 on the ranking board. Gaga gaga. In this era, I, Kabisun, will definitely get the title of Special Genius. Lin Feng, we will settle our old scores in the survival zone. You're dead. Kabisun laughed maniacally. In the past eras, his score had always been dragged down by the combat zone, resulting in him not being able to enter the top 10,000. But this time, he had done it. Xing Foam Star Realm, Xing Foam Branch. Bai Fu, look at what you've done. Venerable Xing Yang shouted. Venerable Bai Fu, who had just entered, was stunned and confused. He looked at Venerable Yun, he beside him. Venerable Yun, he narrowed his eyes and smiled. He didn't know what Venerable Yun he meant. Sitting beside Venerable Xing Yang, one of the two giants of the Xing Foam branch, Kuei Yi Huang Zun, said, "All right, Xing Yang, stop joking." Joking? Venerable Bai Fu was stunned and didn't understand. Venerable Xing Yang's expression instantly changed, revealing a smile. "Ha, Bai Fu, you've done a great thing." "A great thing? What did I do?" Venerable Bai Fu still didn't understand. Venerable Yun, he smiled and said, "There's news from the training camp. In this era's combat zone test, someone from our Xing Foam branch has entered the top 10,000. "Oh, great, great." Venerable Bai Fu suddenly understood and laughed, then was stunned again. "It has something to do with me?" Do you know who it is? Venerable Xingyang blinked and smiled. Who? Venerable Bai Fu didn't understand. Wang Zihan or Min Luo? Venerable Xingyang shook his head. Oh, Venerable Bai Fu suddenly understood. It's me, right? Hu Yang. Hu Yang has entered the top 10,000? His luck is so good. I remember that his ranking in the last era was in the 200,000. Could it be He Chio's seed? That's even more impossible. It's only the third era since he entered the training camp, and his ranking is even lower than Hu Yang's. Scratching his head, Venerable Bai Fu couldn't react. All right, Xingyang, don't keep us in suspense. Look at how anxious Bai Fu is. Kuei Huang Zun gave a rare smile and said to Venerable Bai Fu, it's neither. The person who entered the top 10,000 in the combat zone is a newcomer. A newcomer? Venerable Bai Fu's eyes widened. Kuei Huang Zun's eyes lit up. I've already gone to the training camp to confirm. It's the special genius Lin Feng you recruited not long ago. There are a total of 61 newcomers who enter the combat zone's elimination stage, and Lin Feng is one of them. This, Venerable Bai Fu sucked in a breath. Actually, when Kuei Yi and I first heard this news, we were also shocked. Venerable Xingyang smiled and said, who would have thought that a newcomer could enter the combat zone's elimination stage? That's the top 10,000 in the training camp. Although it's only the combat zone and doesn't mean that he has the strength of a peak divine master, it's still quite impressive. Venerable Yin he sighed. Yes, his future is limitless. Kuei Huangzun nodded in satisfaction. I believe that in a few eras, he'll be able to stand out and become a special genius like He Yu, who has the strength of a peak divine master. He might even be stronger. Kuei Huangzun was very happy. It was currently the 7th Hidden Revered Conference, and he was worried that he didn't have any chips to compete with the other 4 giants. Now, a super genius, Lin Feng, had appeared out of nowhere. How could he not be happy? We have hope in this 7th Hidden Revered Conference, Venerable Xingyang said with a smile. Double insurance. We can at least get a spot. Venerable Yun he nodded. The Venerables were chatting, but Venerable Bai Fu was still in a daze. He didn't hear wrong. He really didn't hear wrong. It hadn't even been an era, and the little guy he recruited had become so strong. Unbelievable. Venerable Bai Fu muttered. Chapter 2432. Taichung Zun God Realm, Qian Zun City. Not bad. There are 61 newcomers who have entered the Great Elimination Sand Stage this time. Yes, in the past 1,000 eras, the average number of newcomers who have entered the Great Elimination Sand Stage is twice as high this time. This means that the quality of the newcomers in this era is not bad, especially the super genius Huang Qinyan, who is ranked 69th. It's really amazing. That Yan Handy is not bad either. She almost entered the top 100. Yes, this time, there might be 5 to 6 newcomers who will enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand Stage. It's time for some new seedlings to emerge. We lose to the God-slaying training camp every era. It's too embarrassing. Yes, it makes our Qianzun city always lower than them. It's depressing. The responsibility of the combat zone was the same as the responsibility of each zone. There was a zone leader, 10 vice zone leaders, and 1,000 venerables. Now that the names of the Great Elimination Sand Stage were out, it was naturally in full swing and attracted a lot of attention. In addition to the venerables in charge, there were other venerables who came from Taichung God Realm to observe and choose suitable disciples. In addition to the Survival Zone Challenge, the most attention was the Combat Zone Test. To the venerable ones who would only come here occasionally, they would pay more attention to the powerful cultivators. On the other hand, to the venerable ones who would come every epoch, the newcomers were their main target of observation. This was because they already knew the strength and potential of the other cultivators. Huang Qinyan can't be snatched. That's for sure. Several Huang Zun are secretly competing. No one is willing to give way. Actually, the Yan Handy is not bad. Man Jiang and Pu Chaco are also good. Their performance is very outstanding. Yan Handy probably won't be our turn. Man Jiang, Pu Chaku, and that Lin Feng can be considered, they all have good potential. Let's see who can stand out in the Great Elimination Sand stage. The first 3 rounds of selection did not reveal anything. After all, it was a chaotic battle, strength was important, but luck was also a lot. What the Venerables really paid attention to was the Great Elimination Sand stage. The first 2 rounds would eliminate a lot of sand, leaving behind the real gold. The 61 newcomers were all on the Venerables' list of attention. The first stage of the Great Elimination Sand was especially important because more than 90% of the newcomers would be eliminated here. In every era, only 2 to 3 people could enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand stage. Combat Field, Independent Space. Boom, boom. The mini-saber lights contained a tyrannical aura, as if they contained boundless primal chaos energy. They did not contain any state or heavenly Tao. Instead, they returned to simplicity, their strength reaching the pinnacle. There was nothing fancy about it, but its destructive power was astonishing. Lin Feng wielded the war saber's sovereign concealment and completely integrated it into the saber art. To be honest, this saber art was very crude. In terms of power, it was far from Lin Feng's self-created Mega Avalanche. Even if it was used to the extreme, it was not even 1% of Mega Avalanche's power. Regardless of whether it was the way of the heavens or the exquisiteness of the saber technique, there was a huge difference between them. However, Lin Feng had spent 15 years practicing this chaotic nightmare saber technique. 15 precious years in the combat realm. At the end of the 3rd round, he only had 20 years to cultivate, but Lin Feng had spent 15 years on this set of ordinary saber techniques. However, the effect was not bad, because this saber technique was easy to understand and its power was ordinary. He had mastered more than 50% of it. Cultivators, please get ready. The first stage of the Great Sand Cleansing is about to begin. The voice of the top-notch artificial intelligence sounded, interrupting Lin Feng's saber technique. The earth-shattering set of barbaric saber techniques instantly stopped. Lin Feng sighed softly. Just a little more. This is the true chaos heavenly Tao. I took the wrong path previously. I blindly pursued speed. I wanted to fuse the intent heavenly Tao and the chaos heavenly Tao, but I neglected the fact that my foundation was not enough. Lin Feng put away the war saber sovereign concealment. His eyes flashed. He had skipped and directly comprehended the chaos heavenly Tao. Previously, he had not even comprehended the divine power realm. It was not that he cannot do it. After all, his life level was there. However, jumping 2 levels at once was a little exaggerated. No matter how high his comprehension was, he could not be so reckless. The foundation was the most important. The power of the saber technique was secondary. Although the power of the chaos saber technique that he comprehended was terrible compared to the saber technique that fused the intent heavenly Tao and the chaos heavenly Tao, he could clearly comprehend the mysteries of the chaos heavenly Tao. This was because the chaos saber technique itself only had one profundity, the primordial chaos heavenly Tao. He had to first comprehend it and open this door. After that, he would continue to improve the chaos heavenly Tao, fuse it with the intent heavenly Tao, or improve the saber technique. These were all matters for the future. There was no need to think too much. I have to pass the first stage of the Great Sand Cleansing. Otherwise, my comprehension of the primordial chaos heavenly Tao will be interrupted. If I comprehend it elsewhere in the training camp, it won't have this effect. I'm already very close to mastering the chaos saber technique. In 10 years, no, at most 5 years, I will definitely be able to comprehend it. Lin Feng nodded secretly. Once he could comprehend the saber technique, he would be very close to the primordial chaos heavenly Tao. He definitely could not fail in the first stage of the Great Sand Cleansing. Swoosh! Lin Feng's figure flashed and left the independent space. Everyone's attention. The Hidden Revere training camp had more than 10 million cultivators, but only 10,000 cultivators could enter the Great Sand Cleansing. If these 10,000 cultivators could survive in the survival region, they would very likely receive the special treatment of the training camp's geniuses. They were the elites of the elites of the hidden revered training camp. Geniuses from 29,999 astral realms receive the attention of every astral realm's branch experts. Since they belong to the same branch, there is an indescribable connection and a sense of honor. The first stage of the Great Sand Cleansing is split into 2 steps. The first step is a single elimination. The top AI will arrange the matches. It will be based on the combined performance of the first 3 rounds or just the 3rd round. I'm not too sure. Qi Ruolin scratched his head as he spoke to Yuan Shiyu and Ouyang. It's the 3rd round's performance. From afar, a handsome youth walked over with a smile. His purple eyes had a strange charm that made people involuntarily have a good impression of him. Brother Wang. Qi Ruolin stood up in surprise. Yuan Shiyu's eyes lit up. Brother Qi, isn't this our Xing Feng branch's strongest, Wang Zihan? The handsome youth Wang Zihan smiled. I'm not the strongest. Min Luo isn't any weaker than me. Look, Lin Feng, who just entered the Great Sand Cleansing stage, is the truly powerful one. Qi Ruolin made an inviting gesture. Brother Wang is too modest. That's right. Brother Wang, you are the pride of our Xing Feng branch. Yuan Shiyu hid his admiration. Wang Zihan smiled as he sat down. Actually, I was also shocked before. I didn't expect our Xing Feng branch to have such a powerful newcomer. Entering the Great Sand Cleansing stage isn't just luck. Everyone nodded in agreement. I'm looking forward to it. I wonder how far Lin Feng can go. Wang Zihan's purple eyes sparkled as he smiled. Chapter 2433. In the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand, the top 1,000 would be decided from the 10,000 experts. The first step was for the top-notch artificial intelligence to compete in pairs based on the 3rd round's performance. It would eliminate the cultivators who were not strong enough and had entered by luck. The full name of the Great Elimination Sand was Great Wave Elimination Sand. At this stage, the proportion of luck would be greatly reduced. Only cultivators with strong combat power would stand out and enter the 2nd stage of the Great Elimination Sand, which was even more brutal. Lin Feng was slightly surprised. He had clearly entered the actual combat zone, but he did not start immediately like before. It was as if he was waiting for something. After waiting for about 60 seconds, the voice of the top-notch artificial intelligence rang in his ears. Newcomer number 8484. You are the 477th cultivator to advance. Please choose your opponent. Time limit is 60 seconds. Lin Feng was slightly stunned. Suddenly, a small funnel appeared in the air and the countdown began. His consciousness and body suddenly changed. He was high up in the sky. He could clearly see almost 10,000 cultivators below him. According to the ranking evaluated by the top-notch artificial intelligence, they landed in individual battle spaces in the actual combat zone. They were free to choose. Almost 9,000. Lin Feng quickly scanned and understood. In the previous 60 seconds, the top 100 cultivators in the 3rd round would be the first to choose 100 opponents. Now, it should be the 101st to 500th cultivators' turn to choose freely. I didn't expect the top 500 to have such benefits. Lin Feng smiled. Most of the cultivators outside did not know, including Wang Zihan, Qi Ruolin, Yuan Shiyu, and the others. After all, they had never entered the Great Elimination Sand stage of the actual combat zone, not to mention entering the top ranks like Lin Feng. The top 1,000 cultivators in the 3rd round had the right to choose freely. After all, the top-notch artificial intelligence's evaluation might not be completely accurate. It was based on everyone's performance in the 3rd round. The true fairness of the selection was that the top 1,000 cultivators should have the right to choose. Moreover, if the top-notch artificial intelligence accidentally arranged a pair of good friends to fight, it would be even more depressing. The numbers are decreasing so quickly. Lin Feng quickly realized that the number of cultivators ranked after 9,000 was decreasing rapidly. Obviously, he was not the only one being chosen. There were other cultivators as well. I'll also choose a weaker one. I'll conserve my strength and enter the top 5,000 first. Lin Feng didn't try to be brave. Wouldn't picking a strong opponent be giving himself more trouble? Right now, The most important thing was to enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand and obtain another 20 years of cultivation time. Whoosh! Lin Feng's eyes quickly scanned the list. Just as he was about to choose any of the weak cultivators after the 9,000, he suddenly saw a familiar figure in the 8,500. Oh! Lin Feng's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help but smile. It's you. Dual space. Kabishin's unkempt hair swayed in the wind. His brown eyes exuded a chilling, murderous aura. His pair of sharp claws hid a thick netherworld aura. He looked domineering, but at this moment, he had no confidence at all. He was very clear about his performance in the third round, and also knew that his ranking was definitely towards the bottom. The opponent that the top AI had arranged for him would definitely not be weak. There's always a chance. After the first step, there's hope for the second step. The difference between the top 5,000 and the bottom 5,000 in the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand is at least double. Kabishin waited anxiously. Although he was already satisfied with entering the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand, who wouldn't want to continue climbing up? As long as he could cross this step, his ranking would rise. At that time, he wouldn't need to risk his life in the survival domain, and he would be able to enter the top 10,000. Especially now that he didn't even have the death immortal puppet. Whether it was the hunting domain or the survival domain, it was very dangerous. Damn it, it's all because of that human brat. Kabishin was furious when he thought about it. Although he had profited from that battle, and his battle strength had increased a lot, the death immortal puppet and 1,800 Qian revered points still made his heart ache. He wasn't a newbie who had just entered the training camp. There were many places where he could earn Qian revered points. It was hard to advance in the dangerous heaven region, and it was very dangerous in the hunting domain. Every Qian revered point was hard to earn. If I see him in the survival domain, I'll definitely kill him. Kabishin clenched his claws. He hated Lin Feng to the bone. With his current strength, he was 100% sure that he could kill Lin Feng in the survival domain. At this time, a ripple appeared in the space in front of him. A white light seemed to come from the horizon. His opponent was here. Crack! Kabishin clenched his claws. His eyes shot out a sharp light, and his battle intent soared. A figure wrapped in the white light appeared in front of him. The blurry figure passed by, revealing the opponent's face. What? Kabishin's eyes widened in shock. He took 2 steps back and staggered. The battle intent that had just been ignited felt like someone had poured a bucket of cold water over his head. His heart went cold, and his face went pale. That appearance, that expression, and that bloodthirsty saber that was seething with killing intent. Lin Feng. Kabishin spat out those 2 words, and his teeth clattered. The scene in the simulation space appeared in his mind. It was like a nightmare that he could not get rid of. His opponent's sudden burst of strength had easily defeated him, leaving a deep impression in his heart. Although Kabishin's strength had improved by quite a bit, he knew that there was still a huge gap between him and the terrifying strength that Lin Feng used to defeat him. Why is it you again? Kabishin roared in his mind as his body trembled. Lin Feng revealed a smile. He looked at Kabishin as if to say, "We meet again." Shua! 2 protective white lights dissipated from Lin Feng and Kabishin's body. There was no longer any protection in the dual space. Lin Feng's smile was still in Kabishin's eyes. Warblade Diyin had already risen into the sky, and its killing intent was surging. No! Kabishin was hysterical. Universe Sector, Plaza Leisure Bar. Shua! Wang Zihan's eyes lit up with joy. It's over. Lin Feng's rookie ranking has risen. Qi Wolin laughed loudly. He's temporarily ranked 8th. Yuan Xiu laughed. If it's all over, he will definitely be able to stabilize outside the top 10. Ouyang happily wagged her tail and smiled sweetly. Brother Lin is so powerful. He has passed the first stage's crucial stage. Wang Zihan let out a sigh of relief. Looks like Lin Feng's ranking in the 3rd round is not bad. At least his opponents are about the same in strength. It's good that he passed the first stage. Yuan Xiu said. At least he obtained a score. The second stage is too difficult. There are only 2 or 3 rookies that can enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sands every epoch. At least everyone's scores are about the same. Chi Wolin nodded. The score is the most important. Oyangi tilted her head and said, but Brother Lin can also advance. Yuan Shiyu and company looked over and smiled as they shook their heads. Rookies entering the second stage of the Great Elimination Sands? It was too difficult. Chapter 2434. The two steps of the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand were closely linked. The 5,000 cultivators who won in the decisive battle space would directly enter the 500 dual regions to fight. Every time they killed an opponent, they would get 1 point. If they were killed, they wouldn't get any points. In the end, the top 2 cultivators in each dual region would advance. If they had the same points, they would be ranked according to the order in which they were killed. Chua Lin Feng appeared in an empty dual region that was like an arena on Earth. The difference was that this place was completely sealed, and the surroundings weren't made of metal or ore. Instead, there was a layer of blue light wall that had a strong defensive power. On the first one, Lin Feng wasn't surprised. Based on the free selection of opponents just now, the top 100 cultivators in the third round would be the first to enter the dual regions, numbered 1 to 500. He was ranked 477 in the third round, and belonged to the second batch to enter the dual regions. Killing Kabir didn't take much time. Naturally, he would be the first to enter the dual regions, numbered 500. In the words of Earth, I'm a seeded player. Lin Feng smiled. Not long after, a brown-skinned demon warrior appeared on the other side of the dual regions. The 2 black spiral horns on his head were terrifying. He stared at Lin Feng with obvious fear. Their eyes met, and he instantly avoided. The third round's cultivators ranked 501-1000. Lin Feng could easily determine that this kind of opponent's combat power wasn't much different from his. He would definitely avoid him in the Great Elimination battle later. Even if he didn't avoid him, he would avoid him. After all, there were only 2 people who could advance to the next round. If he was determined to fight head-on with him, he wouldn't be able to obtain any benefits. When the sandpiper and the clam fought, the fisherman would reap the benefits. The battle royale wasn't about who survived to the end, but rather who had the most points. Only when they had the same number of points would they calculate who survived longer. Shua, shua, shua. The third, fourth, and fifth cultivators appeared one by one. The rule of the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand was to arrange the cultivators into the 500 dual regions in order. Here, one's own strength was the most important, but there was still a small portion of strategy and tactics that gave each cultivator a chance. Those experienced cultivators would undoubtedly have a lot of ideas. But for Lin Feng, it was actually very simple proximity principle. If a cultivator took the initiative to attack him, then he would fight. If not, then he would find the cultivator closest to him. Directly entering the central area for a chaotic battle was the stupidest thing to do, because he would very likely be targeted. As long as I can kill 2 of them, I will be in an invincible position. Lin Feng directly drew his saber, and the way of the heavens of the subtle realm appeared, forming an almost perfect picture scroll in the void, and blasted toward the demon expert. In the roar of the opponent, the initial way of the heavens of the chaos appeared, mixed with the ordinary way of the heavens, and was equally powerful. But 1 + 1 couldn't be greater than 2, especially when Lin Feng didn't just have the way of the heavens of the minute's subtlety. The power of the third firmament of light and darkness wasn't inferior to the way of the minute's subtlety. The combination of the two directly destroyed the demon warrior's way of the heavens and killed him. His strength was absolutely overwhelming. This demon warrior was stronger than Ka-Bide, but he was seriously injured. His strength was limited. Even if he wasn't injured, he wouldn't be Lin Feng's opponent in a one-on-one. None of the other 8 cultivators came to help. All of them stayed as far away as possible. Another one. The moment Lin Feng killed the demon warrior, he swept his gaze around. The brown-skinned demon also obtained a point at the same time. There were only 8 cultivators left in the dueling area. 2 of them were fighting in pairs, and the other 4 were fighting in the center of the dueling area. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. He glanced at the brown-skinned demon. The latter stared at the two cultivators fighting in pairs. He seemed to be hinting at something. Lin Feng smiled. He knew what he was thinking. His intention was very clear. He wanted to team up with him and kill the two cultivators who were fighting each other. Each of them would get 2 points, which was quite smart. But he didn't want to do that. The risk was too great. Once he joined forces with the brown-skinned demon, the 4 cultivators in the center of the dueling area would join forces. Even with the 2 cultivators, it would become a situation of many against few. Moreover, he didn't want to join forces with the demons. Chapter 24:35. Wait. Lin Feng floated in the air and was not in a hurry. The situation was complicated and confusing. There were too many cultivators left, and there were too many variables. If he did not handle it well, he would become a target for everyone. He might be able to kill one of them, but he would be surrounded by the remaining cultivators. At that time, he would only have 2 points and would be eliminated early. He might not be able to advance. He was determined to get the spot for the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand. He could just sit on a mountain and watch the tigers fight. With 1 point in hand, as long as he stayed until the end, he would definitely be able to kill another cultivator to get 2 points. His chances of advancing would be more than 90%. What was there to be anxious about? Moreover, he could go and kill the other cultivators who got 2 points according to the situation. Swish! Lin Feng stared at the brown demon. His every move could easily affect the situation. The latter saw that Lin Feng did not agree to cooperate with him and was staring at him. He gritted his teeth, but there was nothing he could do. In the field of combat, it was impossible to talk. Naturally, there was no way to communicate. Everything depended on one's actions and eyes. Lin Feng was not worried about the other cultivators teaming up. The 2 on the left were fighting each other. Even if they teamed up, he would be able to team up with the demon first. As for the center of the duel area, it was too chaotic. There were too many problems to deal with if they wanted to team up. Bide time. On the other side, the brown demon could only bide his time. No one who could enter the hidden supremacy training camp was stupid. Moreover, these were the top 10,000 cultivators in the field of combat. They were the elites of the elites in all aspects. The battle was unusually fierce and tragic, especially the 4 cultivators in the center of the duel area. They were giving it their all. They knew where their chance was. The 2 strongest cultivators were watching from the side, giving them a chance. One of the young men with an afro went crazy. He was the most injured in the battle and attracted the attention of the other 3 cultivators. Everyone wanted to get this point. Lin Feng watched with a smile. He did not help, nor did he participate in the battle. Boom! Boom! Cheat! It was 3 against 1. Soon, the battle began in the center of the duel area. The young man with the afro was severely injured. The strong one from the Black Ear tribe was the fastest. He lashed out with his tail whip and killed the young man's head. He looked excited. Now is the time. The war saber emperor in Lin Feng's hand faintly revealed its loftiness, and the image of the mega avalanche suddenly appeared in the sky. It pointed directly at the Black Ear expert who had just obtained 1 point. The latter's face, which was full of excitement, instantly collapsed into incomparable horror. The other 2 cultivators looked at each other. One of them was the golden-haired young man on Lin Feng's left. Immediately, as if they had agreed beforehand, they retreated from the battle, leaving the center of the duel area empty. Kill! Lin Feng directly attacked the Black Ear expert. 1-on-1. Whoosh! Whoosh! The human and demon who had just left the center of the duel area immediately charged towards the 2 cultivators who were fighting on the left. Their intentions were obvious. They wanted to take advantage of the situation. They were smart enough not to confront Lin Feng directly. This was because none of them had obtained any points in the previous round. The one who had obtained the points was the Black Ear youth. Unknowingly, the Black Ear youth's current status and situation were above the 2 of them. At this time, using Lin Feng's hand to eliminate the Black Ear youth was the wisest choice. Instead of joining forces to deal with Lin Feng, which would create more variables, it was better to fight for the remaining spot. Their chances of advancement would be higher. The brown-haired demon in the distance instantly understood, but it was 1 step too late for Lin Feng. He naturally would not fight with Lin Feng and snatched food from the tiger's mouth. After hesitating for a while, he slowly approached the 4 cultivators who were fighting on the left side, waiting for an opportunity. Chi. One-on-one. Lin Feng killed the black ear expert without any suspense and obtained the second point. Then, he directly retreated and left the battle circle. Since victory was already in his grasp, there was no need to continue fighting. Lin Feng knew what it meant to stop when he was ahead. Since the 2 cultivators had given him face, he would naturally return the favor. Anyway, since he was going to advance, there was no need to provoke them. He slowly appreciated the battle. This time, he was really going to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. That golden-haired youth is really cunning. With Lin Feng's current strength, he naturally saw through it. He was obviously hiding his strength, but he had been passively taking a beating. However, he only suffered light injuries, pretending to be weak. The 4 cultivators were fighting in a chaotic battle. It was really chaotic now. The brown-haired demon wanted to join in, but he was hesitant. If he joined, he would be easily targeted. If he did not join, he was afraid that his score would be low. After all, he only had 1 point now. Chi. As one of the 4 cultivators was killed, the brown-haired demon expert could no longer hold back. His killing intent was exposed, and his absolute confidence in his own strength made him like a tiger in a flock of sheep. He directly killed his way into the chaotic battle. Lin Feng crossed his hands and watched. Even if the brown-haired demon expert advanced in the end, it had nothing to do with him. After all, there were 2 spots, and one of them was for him. His mixed strength heavenly Tao is so outstanding. Lin Feng was actually enjoying the battle of the brown-haired demon expert with great interest. Compared to him, who had not even comprehended the initial realm, the brown-haired demon expert's mixed strength heavenly Tao was already at the small success realm. It was quite extraordinary. Another one of the remaining 3 cultivators went. The golden-haired youth erupted, and before the brown-haired demon expert, he counterattacked and obtained 1 point. He was the same as the remaining white-haired youth and brown-haired demon expert, obtaining 1 point. He's going to be targeted. Lin Feng looked at the brown-haired demon expert. The golden-haired youth and the white-haired youth had a tacit understanding and attacked the brown-haired demon expert at the same time. Both of them were weaker than the brown-haired demon expert, but they were not at a disadvantage in a 2-on-1 battle. One is proficient in the time law, and the other is proficient in the space law. Although it's the first time they're working together, their coordination is wonderful. Lin Feng could not help but sigh. They were clearly much weaker than the brown-haired demon expert, but as time passed, the brown-haired demon expert was forced into a dangerous situation. All 3 sides were injured continuously, and it was just a matter of which side fell first. Pung! The brown-haired demon expert was once again repelled, and he retreated like a kite with its string cut. Huff! Lin Feng was startled, looking at the brown-haired demon expert's back that was getting closer and closer. He was a little surprised, and suddenly laughed involuntarily. A light flashed in his eyes, and the war blade, Di-een, mercilessly slashed down. The brown-haired demon expert had obviously forgotten about him. He indeed did not want to participate in the battle, but it did not mean that the points were in front of him. Swish! The brown-haired demon expert's expression changed greatly. During the fierce battle, he had indeed completely forgotten about Lin Feng. Now that he thought about it, it was too late. He was already an arrow at the end of its flight. How could he be Lin Feng's opponent? He was defeated in a few moves and was miserably eliminated. 3 points. Lin Feng smiled slightly. Chapter 2436. The golden-haired youth and the white-haired youth were stunned, but they didn't think too much about it. After all, it was the same no matter who killed the brown-haired demon expert. Ultimately, the 2 of them had to determine a victor, and the winner would be able to advance to the next round. Therefore, it didn't matter if Lin Feng took this point. Clang! The 2 of them used all their strength to determine the winner. This time, they didn't hold back at all. The golden-haired young man, who had been hiding his real strength, had the last laugh. After defeating the Whitehead clan's young man, he rushed towards Lin Feng like a moth darting into a flame. Soon, He turned into a white light and disappeared. Congratulations, newbie number 8484, for being the first to advance in Battle Zone 451, completing 4 kills, gaining double 800 Qianzun points. The top AI's voice rang in his ears. Lin Feng smiled in satisfaction. He had guessed that there would be a hidden reward, but he didn't expect it to be so much. 800 Qianzun points, which was the original 400, should be related to the 4 kills. And he guessed that only the first to advance would get the reward. Even if I went all out from the start, getting 4 or 5 points would be the limit. Lin Feng had estimated that his strategy this time was correct, and there were no risks involved. He had obtained 4 points without any surprises and was the first to advance to the next round. Plus, passing the second stage for the first time, the newbie gets double 600 Qianzun points, 3911 Qianzun points. He didn't need to look at the Qianzun Luo Jing to know that his Qianzun points were accumulating very quickly. But the Qianzun points were secondary. The most important thing was that he had gained 20 years of precious cultivation time. In these 20 years, he was confident that he could grasp the primal chaos heavenly path. Let's begin training. Lin Feng was very satisfied with the results and didn't care if the other cultivators passed the first stage. Paying attention to himself was the most important thing. Great waves washing away the sand. The real screening was carried out in the field of actual combat. The 10,000 cultivators with tyrannical strength were forcefully reduced to 1,000. The short 2 steps of elimination. One was to get rid of those who only relied on luck and survival. The other was to sharpen the strategy and tactics of those who advanced. For cultivator, this was very important, especially in large-scale life and death battles, as well as the dangers of experiencing the baptism of the universe's secret regions. Of course, cultivators with absolute strength did not need this. For example, Pu Kiki, who had obtained 8 points in this round, and the Great Demon Ta Kong, Great Demon Aomo, and other experts who had obtained 7 points. They had used their overwhelming strength to advance to the next round. The first round of the Sand Crusade was over. Some people were happy, while others were sad. In the various regions, all the cultivators were paying close attention to the advancement quota and cheering from time to time. The taverns in the plaza were especially lively. However, Wang Zihan and Qi Ruolin's table were somewhat dumbfounded. The 3 humans and 1 demonic beast looked at each other, their eyes filled with confusion. Advance? I think, that's right. Am I seeing things? Did Lin Feng really advance to the second stage of the Great Sand Hunt? Even Wang Zihan, who is currently the strongest in the Xingfeng branch, shook his head in disbelief. He knew that Lin Feng was strong. After all, to be able to enter the first stage of the crusade, he must have real strength. But he didn't expect Lin Feng to be this powerful. The second stage of the Great Sand Hunt. Those were the top 1,000 experts in the entire hidden Zune training camp in the actual combat zone. As long as these 1,000 experts didn't die, it could be said that after the survival zone ended, the probability of obtaining the top 10,000 special class geniuses was more than 99%. Lin Feng was just a newbie. He had just entered the training camp for less than 5,000 years. Big Brother Lin is awesome. Ouyang Yi was the most excited and was the first to shout. She was so happy that she started dancing. The unique and beautiful dance of the demonic beast attracted everyone's attention. Brother Lin is really frightening. Yuan Shiyu let out a long sigh after a long while. He and Lin Feng could be considered close friends. They entered the hidden Zune training camp together, so he clearly knew how strong Lin Feng was. He knew that Lin Feng's improvement was godly and his talent was peerless, but it wasn't to this extent, right? Right now, he had completely left him behind. Yuan Shiyu was now doubting himself. Was he still considered a genius? Compared to Lin Feng, his improvement speed was like a tortoise's crawl. Currently, Lin Feng is ranked 5th in the newbie ranking. Qi Ruo Lin's expression was serious, but his eyes were shining. A total of 6 newbies entered the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand. Wang Zihan nodded. Huang Qinyin is ranked 1st. Her score is much higher than the other 5. Yan Handy and Manjiang are ranked second and third. The top 3 of the newbie ranking is basically unchanged. Yes, the 3 of them are very strong, especially Huang Qinyan. Chiruo Lin said, "It's just that Yan Handy and Man Zhang's positions are constantly changing." Wang Zihan said, "Lin Feng's score wasn't high before, so he's only ranked 5th now. It's already very good. When has our Xingfeng branch's newbies ever been ranked so high?" Chi Ruolin sighed. "There are big and small astral realms, strong and weak astral realms. Our Xingfeng branch is ranked below 20,000 among the 29999 astral realms." Wang Zihan laughed. "This time, Lin Feng has really given our Xingfeng branch's head face. Not just face, it's a huge explosion, haha." Chiruo Lin laughed heartily. "I believe that Lin Feng's name has already spread throughout the training camp. Even our Xingfeng branch is proud of him." Everyone was overjoyed. Everyone was from the Xingfeng branch, so they were naturally elated. Who is this Lin Feng? Right? Why haven't I heard of him before? He came out of nowhere. That's too ruthless. He directly jumped to the 5th place in the newbie ranking. Xingfeng Astral Realm is such a remote place, and is actually such an awesome newbie. His luck has really changed. He's just strong in his actual combat domain. Or maybe he was just lucky enough to enter the 2nd stage. His true strength is still unknown. Isn't the great Fei Tuo Kong from the Vajra district the same? He's extremely strong in his actual combat domain, but his true combat power is below the top 100. Speaking of which, this era's newbies are really impressive. There are actually 6 of them who entered the 2nd stage of the Great Elimination Sands. I remember that there were only 2 in the previous era, and 3 in the era before that. Right? Especially Huang Qinyan. She's so strong that she has no friends. She's so beautiful that she's 10,000 times more beautiful than a fairy. Not only did she leave everyone else in the dust on the newbie ranking, but she also entered the top 1,000 on the overall ranking. Just like what Chiruo Lin said, Lin Feng's name had spread. Normally, every era's newbies who could enter the 2nd stage of the Great Elimination Sands would be well known. As long as they didn't die, they would definitely be in the top 100 on the overall ranking. Gold would always shine. Although Lin Feng was only ranked 5th on the newbie ranking, there was no doubt that he had already made a name for himself in the Hidden Revered training camp. Chapter 2437. He had fully comprehended the Chaos Saber technique. In just 3 years, Lin Feng had completely comprehended this basic saber technique. This saber technique's intent realm, Heavenly Tao, was completely unorthodox. It relied on the initial chaos, Heavenly Tao, to unleash pure power. Was it difficult? It was indeed difficult for Lin Feng, who had never come into contact with the chaos, Heavenly Tao, or even the divine strength, Heavenly Tao. If it was outside, even with the guidance of a teacher and the perfect chaos body, it would be very difficult to master. After all, Lin Feng's comprehension was jumping. After all, this was the entry level of the Chaos Heavenly Tao. Everything was difficult at the beginning, and the entry level was often the most difficult. But here, the virtual body given by the top-level artificial intelligence allowed Lin Feng's consciousness to simulate it over and over again, immersing himself in the experience. This level of comprehension was definitely not available outside. No training facility had such an effect. The combat domain was the best training facility in itself. Boom! Boom! Power erupted. Lin Feng felt that his entire body was filled with explosive power. The advantage of the Chaos Heavenly Tao was that it was almost seamless with the intent realm Heavenly Tao. It didn't need to be too deliberate to unleash enough power. This was a little different from the myriad phenomena Heavenly Tao. The myriad manifestations Heavenly Tao depended on whether the Heavenly Tao of intent and the saber technique could be combined. However, the Heavenly Tao of mixed strength itself was a foundational thing. It was a combination of techniques and realms that could increase the mixed strength from 1 to 10 to 100. Although the Chaos Heavenly Tao and the Intent Realm Heavenly Tao could be combined perfectly, It's troublesome to combine it with the myriad phenomena heavenly Tao. Lin Feng knew. Generally, in the combat domain, the attacks of human experts were the myriad phenomena heavenly Tao plus the law, or the myriad phenomena heavenly Tao plus the intent realm heavenly Tao. The chaos heavenly Tao appeared more often among the experts of the demon race and the demon race, who were good at strength, or among the races and special life forms with strong bodies. Their attacks were more of the chaos heavenly Tao plus the intent realm heavenly Tao. It's a little difficult. Lin Feng frowned slightly. There were two paths in front of him. One was to combine the initial chaos heavenly Tao with the myriad phenomena heavenly Tao, which was to combine the third heaven of the 9 heavens of light and darkness to increase his combat strength. The other was to continue to cultivate the stronger chaos heavenly Tao realm. The initial realm was only the beginning of the chaos heavenly Tao. After that, it was small success, large success, perfection, pinnacle, extreme, and great perfection. He had just opened the door to the chaos heavenly Tao. There were two paths. One was to increase his current combat strength, but that would waste precious time in the actual combat area. The other was to use the unique cultivation effects of the combat domain to increase his cultivation of the chaos heavenly Tao. Lin Feng pondered for a moment. Let's increase our current combat strength. After all, I've already stepped into the realm of the heavenly Tao of chaos. Although it's only the beginning, I've already made a start, and there's already a clear path for me to cultivate. It'll be much easier, and even if I leave the field of combat, I'll still be able to improve my cultivation. Moreover, in less than 20 years, it's impossible for me to improve the realm of the heavenly Tao of chaos to small success. Let's take a step back and say that even if it's upgraded to small mastery, its power is only equivalent to the third sky of light and darkness. It needs to be integrated to be able to exert more power than it is now. In comparison, the hidden venerable points are more important. Lin Feng nodded to himself. He was now at the 57th level in the combat simulation space and was very close to the 60th level. Although passing the 60th level didn't mean that he would be able to enter the roulette battle, at least there was hope. With his current strength, his chances of entering the roulette battle were less than 10%. Although there are only 100 spots in the roulette battle, and even if I go all out, I won't be able to compete with the first 50 or 80. But in fact, the further I go, the smaller the gap becomes. Everyone's combat strength is probably at the 60th level, and it's a competition of improvisation. In the remaining 17 years, if I can integrate the third sky of light and darkness and the initial chaos, heavenly Tao of chaos, even if my combat strength only increases by 20 to 30%, I should be able to reach the 60th level. At that time, I'll have the power to compete. A soldier who didn't want to be a general wasn't a good soldier. If there was hope to enter the roulette battle, why would he give up? Was it because there were very few rookies who entered the roulette battle in the past epics? For hundreds of epics, there hasn't been a single rookie who could enter the roulette battle. I'm going to break this rule. Lin Feng's fighting spirit was instead aroused. The harder it was, the more challenging it was, the more his blood boiled. Especially when he saw Huang Qinyan, who was high up on the rookie ranking board. Luo Jing. Lin Feng's eyes were filled with fighting spirit. People always climbed higher. Most importantly, there was the double reward in the battle domain. The first time entering the roulette battle, the reward was 1,000 hidden revered points. 2,000 hidden revered points. Lin Feng went all out. Some hidden revered points were gone if missed. The benefits of a rookie couldn't be repeated, so wasting 1,000 hidden revered points was too much of a waste. How many times could he enter the training facilities and increase his strength? In a hidden revered training camp, hidden revered points were everything. It could increase one's strength, buy treasures, and do anything you want. 3911 hidden revered points was far from enough. Wanxiang Heavenly Tao and Chaos Heavenly Tao don't have any conflicts. One is the law, the other is the realm of strength and technique. They can be added together, but the fusion aspect still needs to be strengthened. Lin Feng was definitely a master in the fusion aspect. Many talented cultivators had fallen at this threshold. The 9 heavens of light and darkness was the peak of Wanxiang heavenly Tao, and it wasn't just for show. It was extremely powerful, but it was also extremely difficult to cultivate. Fusion, there were techniques and fusion degrees. Normal fusion could produce a certain amount of power. If the fusion was more compact, the power would be stronger. If the fusion was perfect, the power would explode. So Lin Feng chose this path. Even if he could only fuse a part of it, his strength would definitely increase. It was just a matter of how much. As long as I can fuse 80%, I can reach the 60th level. If I can fuse 100%, I might have a chance to reach the 61st level. The combat simulation space also had 5 levels and 1 stage. The difference between the 60th and 61st level was huge. Lin Feng was clear. He had only comprehended the initial realm of chaos heavenly Tao, so his strength was still too weak. Plus, his body was at peak God Lord, so he didn't have any chaos heavenly Tao. So even if he fused to the limit, he would only be able to increase his strength by 1 to 2 times. But if he fused the initial realm of chaos heavenly Tao, it would be different. Once he fused the initial realm of chaos heavenly Tao, which was comparable to the light and darkness heavenly Tao, his strength would explode. But that was too far away. It's already not bad to be able to fuse the light and darkness heavenly Tao with the initial realm of chaos heavenly Tao. Lin Feng wasn't greedy. He only had 17 years, so he was already satisfied. After all, his true body was the perfect chaos body. Once he left the combat domain, he would be able to unleash even more strength. Target, 80% fusion. Let's go all out in the top 100. Lin Feng was filled with battle intent. Chapter 2438. Every newcomer was fighting hard. They were often more hardworking than those old people who had stayed in the training camp for several years. First, it was because it was their first time in the real combat field, and the improvement was more significant. Second, it was because of the huge double reward, and third, it was for reputation. In the Hidden Zone training camp, although it was rare for newcomers to enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand, there were usually 2 or 3 of them. Only those who entered the top 100 roulette battle would not appear even once in 100 years. Every one of them was the focus of the 7th Mercenary Alliance. The newcomer's name was very important. It represented resources, represented prospects, and represented whether the 7th Mercenary Alliance valued them. Huang Qinyan, I will win against you. I will definitely win against you. A demon man with half a body red and half a body green was crazily cultivating. He was the current 2nd place on the newcomer ranking list, Yan Handy, the demon prince of the Vajra district. My mixed strength heavenly Tao has touched the edge of great success. As long as I reach great success, I can compete with Huang Qinyan. I will not lose to you. As the demon prince of the Yan Handy clan, Yan Handy had a proud self-esteem. He had always been number 1, and this was what he was most proud of. Even if he came to the training camp full of talents, he wanted to be number 1. He did not want to lose to anyone, especially humans, especially women. Too stupid. Too stupid. A dark green, 7-meter-tall man waved 4 swords and crazily attacked. His attack contained the law of time, combined with the heavenly Tao and the powerful ability to do 4 things at once. He was ranked 1st in the newcomer ranking list. In fact, the newcomers from the 2 training camps were ranked as high as the 3rd place. Special life, Man Jiang. He blamed himself. Because of the lack of experience, he fell into a bitter battle in the 1st stage of the Great Elimination Sand. Although he finally succeeded in advancing, he was not the 1st to advance, but the 2nd. He lost a lot of points and Hidden Zone points, and it caused his ranking list to plummet. He had been surpassed by Huang Qinyan before, and now he was surpassed by Yan Handy. The overall ranking of the 2 training camps fell to 9th, almost falling out of the top 10. In the 2nd stage, I must wash away my shame. Take back the ranking that belongs to me. Man Zhang's fighting spirit was surging. His 4 arms were madly attacking. After entering the field of actual combat, he had also improved a lot. Although his improvement was not as great as Yan Handy's, but now he Basically, it was already incomparably close to the combat strength level of the 60th stage of the simulation space. Lin Feng, this little guy, has indeed entered the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand. In the battle domain, Wang Sun, who came from the universe region, looked at the newbie ranking and smiled, his ponytail swaying in the wind. He was not surprised. Back then, when Lin Feng defeated Kabir in the combat simulation space, he had already displayed a combat strength close to that of a warlord. It was entirely possible for him to enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand. I wonder if he was the first to advance or the second to advance. If it's the first advancement, the Great Scouring Sands will have a lot of advantages at the beginning of the second stage. Wang Sun smiled. In the last era, he was ranked 653 in the combat domain. He had advanced in succession, but this time, he was the first to advance. I can't lose to that little guy. He has already exceeded his goal and entered the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand. It's time for me to reach my goal. Wang Sun's eyes gleamed. His goal this time was very clear. It was the top 100 roulette battle, not only in the combat domain, but also in the survival domain. His goal was to be in the top 100 of the entire Hidden Saint training camp. There were many warriors like Wang Sunday. Of the 1,000 who had entered the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand, none of them were weak. Everyone wanted to reach a higher level and obtain the right to enter the roulette battle. However, there were some whose goals weren't there. For example, the Hidden Saint training camp's strongest Pu Kuku, or the combat domain's great demon Tua Kong, Mo, etc. Their goals were much further. To them, entering the roulette battle was a given. After that, in the roulette battle against the God-slaying training camp, winning phase for the Hidden Saint training camp was the most important. Every era, the Hidden Saint training camp was always suppressed by the God-slaying training camp. As a member of the Hidden Saint training camp, they were naturally unwilling. Who didn't want to fight for face? Trout Dragon, Taigen Decidua. In terms of overall strength, Pu Kuku cannot compare to you guys, but in the combat domain, I still have a chance to win. A pair of bright eyes flashed with dense, fighting intent. Pu Kuku wasn't a human, nor was she from the devil race or the demon race. She was a special life form from Ka-O star boundary. Born with a Hundun body, she had tyrannical strength and was proficient in the Hundun heavenly Tao. Pu Kuku had entered the training camp for the fourth era. Every era, she improved at lightning speed. In the previous era, she had squeezed into the top 10. In this era, she had firmly maintained the top 2 rankings of the Hidden Saint training camp. She was fully deserving of being the strongest warrior in the Hidden Saint training camp. 20 years passed in the blink of an eye. To every combat domain's cultivator, they wished they could have another 200 years. However, the combat domain's training time was limited. If they had another 20 years, they would have to obtain the right to enter the top 100 roulette battle. Those with strength would naturally be able to obtain more resources in the training camp. Everything was decided with their fists. It's finally starting. Lin Feng heard the voice of the top AI and kept his battle blade Diyin. The results of 20 years of training had completely exceeded his expectations. Although he had not reached 100% fusion, he had long surpassed 80% fusion. Lin Feng had 100% confidence that he could pass the 60th stage of the combat simulation space. Right now, I should have at least a 20% to 30% chance of winning the roulette battle. Lin Feng disappeared from the independent space. 1,100. The cruel second stage of the Great Elimination had begun. In the competition of absolute strength, those who could survive until now were not mediocre people. There were no lucky cultivators who had passed. After recuperating in the combat domain for 20 years, all of them were now in their peak condition. It's the selection battle again. At this time, Lin Feng already knew that the rules in the Great Sand cleansing stage were different from the rules in the dark. The selection battle was indeed arranged by the top AI, but it was not like the rules. The arrangement had its own rules. I don't know if I have the right to choose. Lin Feng waited for time to pass. What he knew now was that he did not belong to the first batch of selections. In the last duel area of the first stage, his kill score should not be high. 4 kill points could only be considered to be in the middle or upper middle of the top 500 duels area, and the time taken was quite long. If I have the right to choose, it should be 60 seconds. Lin Feng counted silently in his heart. If he did not guess wrongly, the top 500 duels in the first stage of the Great Elimination stage were very likely to have the right to choose, but there should be a difference in order. Time passed slowly. 60 seconds quickly passed. No. Lin Feng felt a little regretful. Chapter 2439. Although it was a pity, Lin Feng didn't really care. It was good to have such a convenient rule. If he didn't have it, he didn't need to care too much. It would affect his temperament. Actually, he was still confident that he could enter the top 500. However, the hope of entering the top 100 was slim. 100 seconds, 120 seconds, 150 seconds. Time passed slowly. Suddenly, the surrounding scenery changed. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. His eyes flashed. The time was exactly 180 seconds. As expected, different from the first stage, this time there should be 5 batches. I'm in the 4th batch. Lin Feng was overjoyed. It was better to be able to choose than to be chosen. Moreover, he was in the 4th batch. There were still 200 cultivators for him to choose from. As expected, these 200 cultivators were the cultivators who advanced from the 500 duels in the first stage of the Great Scouring Sand. The difference between the first and second place is indeed huge. Lin Feng glanced at the 200 cultivators. The number was decreasing. Obviously, he wasn't the only one who was choosing. 60 seconds was a short period of time. There were 200 cultivators, and the duel spaces were numbered, including those who had already been selected. The duel spaces dimmed, indicating that they could not be entered. There were a total of 500 duel spaces from 1 to 500, clearly indicating the combat strength of the 500 selected cultivators. 1 was the strongest, 500 was the weakest. Of course, the so-called 1 was the strongest didn't mean that the cultivator's combat strength was strong. It meant that he had the highest score and the best performance among all the cultivators who advanced from the second stage. Such a ranking could be used as a reference. However, the real deciding factor was the selected cultivator. Most of the people would choose the ones with the last numbers. For example, the duel spaces numbered 301 to 500 were all dimmed. Only a few of them were lit up. They were probably not to be trifled with. Otherwise, they would have been chosen long ago. More than half of the spaces numbered 201 to 300 were dimmed. Less than half of the spaces numbered 101 to 200 were dimmed. Less than 10 spaces numbered 1 to 100 were dimmed. Lin Feng skipped the spaces numbered 1 to 100 and spent a few seconds to choose the spaces numbered 101 to 200. Because most of the numbers 201 to 300 had dimmed, they had at least been filtered many times. On the other hand, the numbers 101 to 200 had not been filtered too many times. In fact, the combat strength of the cultivators in the 2 regions was not much different. The amount of screening became the key factor. Which one should he look for? Lin Feng was a newcomer, and he did not pay as much attention to the other cultivators as Yuan Shiyu. When he looked at the cultivators, he saw that they were all unfamiliar faces. He did not know how strong they were, so he could only choose based on his instincts. Oh! Lin Feng suddenly caught a glimpse of a familiar face. Third on the rookie leaderboard, Man Jiang. Although Lin Feng didn't pay much attention to the rankings, he was still familiar with the top 3. Huang Qinyan, Yan Handy, Man Jiang. They were hailed as one of the 3 supernovas of this epoch. Their names had long shaken the entire training camp, especially Man Jiang. Yuan Shiyu had mentioned him many times before. Back then, his ranking on the rookie rankings was even higher than Huang Qinyan's. At one point, he was ranked first on the rookie rankings and third in the 2 major training camps. As a special life form, Man Jiang was very talented and powerful. But in the actual combat arena, he probably suffered a little. Lin Feng looked at the number 112 above Man Jiang. His ranking was actually quite high. Although he was promoted later, this number was enough to prove his strength. He might be stronger than some of the cultivators who were promoted first. And because Man Jiang was a newcomer with great potential, it was very likely that he would improve rapidly in the actual combat arena and become a famous supernova. Therefore, no cultivator chose him. Those seniors who had stayed in the training camp for a long time would usually choose opponents who were recorded in the database, familiar with them, and confident in defeating them. I'll choose him. Lin Feng made his choice. Since he didn't know the other cultivators, he might as well choose Man Jiang. At least he knew who he was and his approximate strength. It was better than randomly choosing a cultivator who had extremely strong combat strength, but performed poorly in the first round. In the 301 to 500 region, there were only a dozen or so cultivators who were not chosen. They were probably like that. Lin Feng entered the duel space directly. 60 seconds. He only wasted 10 seconds because he knew very well that this time was likely to be included in the benefits or ranking. Or was it related to hidden honor? Duel space 112. Man Jiang stood upright. His dark green body exuded a strong fighting spirit. His eyes were closed, but his 7-meter-tall body gave off a strong sense of oppression. Of his 4 arms, 2 were short and 2 were long. Although he couldn't use his bloodline power in the actual combat arena, his natural form was tacitly allowed. He was good at fighting with 4 arms. You couldn't just give him 2 arms, right? My opponent is him. Seeing Lin Feng appear, Man Jiang was slightly surprised. Unlike Lin Feng, he had carefully studied all the cultivators who had entered the second stage of the Sentinel Sands. These were all within the scope of information that could be found, especially the other 5 newcomers who were his main competitors. Man Jiang was especially attentive and had checked the complete information. Although he valued the actual combat arena, he valued the newcomer ranking even more. After all, this was the place to measure a newcomer's true strength. Furthermore, the survival arena test 5,000 years later was the most important. Lin Feng once defeated Kabir in the actual combat simulation space. According to the information, his combat strength should be around the 50th level in the actual combat simulation space. However, newcomers often have a huge increase in combat strength when they first enter the actual combat arena. With his sudden increase in newcomer ranking and his first place in the first stage of the Sentinel Sands, he should be around 300 to 400. His strength should be at least at the 56th level in the actual combat simulation space. 57, 58, or even close to 60. He shouldn't be underestimated. Information appeared in Man Jiang's mind. As a special class genius who had once occupied the first place in the newcomer ranking, Man Jiang was top-notch in all aspects. Furthermore, all his judgments were based on data and not baseless guesses. My current strength in the actual combat simulation space is at the 59th level. It should be on par with him. Man Jiang didn't underestimate Lin Feng. Especially now that Lin Feng had the right to choose, it directly raised his combat strength by a level. Otherwise, Man Jiang's previous estimation of Lin Feng's combat strength would only be at the 55th level in the actual combat simulation space, which was in line with his ranking on the newcomer ranking. He was an opponent on par with him. Very good. Man Jiang was excited. It wasn't only because his opponent was also a newcomer, but also because such an opponent had a higher chance of winning. He clearly knew his current situation. Losing the right to choose in the first round was actually a huge disadvantage. But now, he had forcefully erased his disadvantage. It was 50-50 and even 4-5-5-5. The one with the advantage should be me. Man Jiang's eyes flashed. He raised his 4 arms, revealing his sword. Chapter 2440. Taichung God Territory, Hidden Supreme City. Come, look. What's there to see? I'm busy. No, I have 2 newcomers on my side. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Come and see. Dozens of venerable ones in charge of the combat region gathered around curiously. In the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand, it was not uncommon for powerhouses to face off against other powerhouses, especially those who already had gaps. However, it was extremely rare for newcomers to face off against each other. After all, in previous eras, there were usually only 2 or 3 newcomers who could enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand. It was too difficult to meet them. Let me see him. It's Man Jiang, who is ranked 3rd on the newcomer ranking list, and Lin Feng, who is ranked 5th on the newcomer ranking list. Who picked who? Lin Feng picked Man Jiang. Lin Feng was the first to advance. Oh, Lin Feng is so confident. He dares to challenge Man Jiang, who is ranked ahead of him on the ranking list? Isn't that so? There are so many people here who are weaker than Man Jiang. It's not wise to pick a weakling to enter the top 500. Wouldn't it be better for his rating to rise? Why would a newcomer think so much? Lin Feng might think that his strength is not worse than Man Jiang, but his ranking on the ranking list is not as good as Man Jiang, so he's a little unhappy and wants to prove himself. It's normal. After all, he's a genius among geniuses. Naturally, he's arrogant and doesn't want to fall behind others. The Venerable Ones spoke one after another and were in a heated discussion. They were all in charge of the combat region. Naturally, they knew Lin Feng and Man Jiang very well, especially the newcomer's information. It was what Huang Zun and even Sir Ultimate God needed the most, so they had to do their homework. What's with all the noise? Wei Yan's voice was heard. Deputy Regent. Deputy Regent. The Venerable Ones greeted him. The 5 major regions were in charge of 1 regent and 10 deputy regents. Huang Zun was in charge of 1,000 Venerable Ones. The deputy regent had a square face and big eyes. His long silver eyebrows were like silver hooks. His hands were behind his back, and his expression was solemn and domineering. The Emperor of the Sea Sect was one of the 10 deputy regents. Go back to your own place. Huang Zun of the Tong sect shouted in an extremely dignified manner. The Venerable Ones immediately dispersed in an uproar. Naturally, they didn't dare to disobey Tong sect Huang Zun's order. The clamor immediately quieted down. Lin Feng, Man Jiang. Huang Zun's eyes flashed as he stared at the screen. Others might not know, but he knew that Lin Feng's score in the simulation space was 57th, which was higher than Man Jiang's. Moreover, this was only his previous score. He might be even stronger now. A super newbie who has been famous for a long time and is from many astral realms. An ordinary newbie from Xingfeng Astral who rose to prominence after entering the training camp. Huang Zun stood with his hands behind his back, his eyes deep. At this moment on the screen, the battle between the 2 rookies had already begun. In dual space number 112, Lin Feng and Man Jiang were engaged in a fierce battle. One was an ordinary human, while the other was a special life form. There is indeed a natural gap between them, especially when Man Jiang was multitasking. His 4 arms were waving 4 different sets of sword moves that complemented each other. It was extremely terrifying. It was as if it was 4 against 1. The dense sword moves faintly suppressed Lin Feng completely. So powerful. Lin Feng was filled with emotion. As expected of the super newbie who was ranked 1st on the newbie ranking list. He could also multitask, but he definitely couldn't perform 4 different sets of sword moves at the same time like Man Jiang. The most terrifying thing was that the 4 different sets of sword moves contained 4 different heavenly axioms. Multitasking was really amazing. This was a unique bloodline talent of special life forms. Heavenly axiom of Minute Realm versus Heavenly axiom of Minute Realm. Third heaven of light and darkness versus Heavenly axiom of time. In terms of raw strength, Man Jiang had the advantage in all aspects. Although his sword moves weren't as exquisite as Lin Feng's saber moves, they were 4 sets of heavenly axioms of minute subtlety. 4 sets of sword moves had a huge advantage. The same went for the heavenly axiom of time. Although it wasn't as exquisite as the heavenly axiom of light and darkness, it was cultivated to a high level, at least the strength of the 59th level, or even close to the 60th level. Lin Feng and Man Jiang fought continuously and quickly figured out the opponent's strength. Although Lin Feng was slightly at a disadvantage, the combat strength that Lin Feng displayed was only the same as when he passed the 57th level. It was natural that he was inferior to Man Jiang. Fighting with an opponent like Man Jiang was an eye-opener for Lin Feng. His minute subtlety has even touched the edge of the exquisite realm. Lin Feng was also cultivating the exquisite realm of heavenly axiom of minute subtlety, so he had a very deep feeling when fighting with Man Jiang. The height of the heavenly axiom of minute subtlety made up for the coarseness of his sword moves, causing his great avalanche saber technique to not have any advantage. It's about time to show my true strength. After blocking Man Zhang's attack, Lin Feng took a step in the air, and his saber technique suddenly changed. As he retreated, the heavenly axiom of light and darkness seemed to condense a layer of invisible power and instilled it on the War Saber Emperor concealment. In a blur, the War Saber Emperor concealment seemed to be high-pitched, and the power of the great avalanche suddenly increased. 80% fusion rate. It's enough. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly. He had a clear estimation of his own strength. Initial heavenly axiom of mixed strength, heavenly axiom of light and darkness, and 80% fusion rate of the heavenly axiom of minute subtlety. He had the absolute combat strength of the 60th level of the simulation space. It was enough to defeat this super newcomer from the Duoyun astral realm. Boom! Lin Feng's combat strength instantly soared. I can take down the 57th level of the simulation space. Man Jiang, who was proficient in data calculation and analysis, steadily performed 4 sets of sword moves. He wasn't in a hurry to take the risk and forced Lin Feng to a dead end, preparing to steadily win this duel. In his estimation, his chance of winning was originally 50% higher. He wouldn't give Lin Feng any chance to counterattack. With enough strength and precise calculation, he was in an invincible position. The 4 sets of sword moves were flawless, and they could be used for both offense and defense. Man Jiang had rich combat experience. He was bound to win. Suddenly what? What kind of power is this? The power of the opponent's great avalanche suddenly increased, and it was mixed with a powerful force of the universe. Man Jiang, who was incomparably familiar with any data, immediately knew. Initial heavenly axiom of mixed strength. How could this be? Man Jiang retreated again and again, switching from offense to defense. His face was a little flustered. He's a human. How could he comprehend the initial heavenly axiom of mixed strength? You're putting the cart before the horse. Man Jiang couldn't figure out at all. Humans were known for their comprehension ability, not their strength. Lin Feng comprehending the initial heavenly axiom of mixed strength was completely inexplicable, and the most inexplicable thing was that the other party had succeeded in comprehending it, and it was integrated into the saber technique and myriad manifestations heavenly axiom. Is there something wrong with this person? Man Jiang clenched his teeth, and his face was extremely ugly. Although he didn't know what was going on, his opponent's sudden increase in combat strength after fusing with the initial heavenly axiom of mixed strength was real. The strength of the 60th level. Damn it. Chapter 2441. Man Jiang gritted his teeth, but there was nothing he could do. The absolute difference in strength made it difficult for him to withstand. Moreover, this newcomer Lin Feng's fighting style was exactly the same as his. He didn't have the impatience of a newcomer at all. Instead, he fought steadily step by step, without any openings to be found. Boom, boom, boom. The mega avalanche gradually erupted. Lin Feng's accumulated advantages gradually overwhelmed Man Jiang. 4 arms, 4 sets of sword techniques. Although it gave Man Jiang a strong attacking ability, his defensive ability didn't increase. When he no longer had the advantage in attacking, Man Jiang gradually lost the initiative in the battle. Oh no! Although Man Jiang was unwilling, he knew that it was difficult to turn the tide. In the real battle domain, unless there was a breakthrough during the battle, it was rare to have the ability to suddenly change the battle situation, especially when the opponent's attacks were intricate and meticulous. I'm indeed not good at the real battle domain. Man Jiang believed that his strength was stronger than Lin Feng. However, in the real battle domain, his bloodline, talent, and control of the heavenly treasure were all difficult to use. Losing was also a result of helplessness. Moreover, according to the calculation and judgment of the data, Man Jiang knew that it would be difficult for him to break through the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand. Whether he entered the top 100 or not, what was the difference between losing early or late? Lin Feng's war saber Di suddenly fell. It was more violent than before. The tyrannical strength given by the universe's heavenly Tao and the third heaven of light and darkness were like two sharp blades that ruthlessly tore apart Manjiang's defense. Hua! Manjiang's figure dissipated. He had lost the battle of the newcomers. My strength wasn't used up much. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. The battle where he defeated Manjiang didn't affect his fighting strength at all. From the beginning to the end, the battle was within his control. The next battle is the key. It's no longer a battle of 10 cultivators, but a battle to determine the first place. Lin Feng's right hand that was holding war saber tightened a little. The next battle was the real key. Defeating Manjiang was just a warm-up battle, so he had not used his full strength. Firstly, he wanted to preserve his strength to prevent himself from being seriously injured before entering the battle. Secondly, even if he killed General Man as fast as he could, it would be useless. 180 seconds had already passed in front of him. In other words, 300 practitioners had already finished their selection. There were at least more than 200 cultivators who had finished their battles before him. If he couldn't get the first or second seed, what did it matter if he got the third, fourth, or fifth seed? There was only one person who had advanced to the next round. That will depend on luck. Lin Feng's figure flickered as he left the duel space. It was completely unknown which area the top-level artificial intelligence would arrange for him to fight in. If he was lucky, he might meet a seeded contestant who wasn't that strong, or he might be arranged against a contestant whose strength was on par with the other 4 cultivators. Then, he might have a chance of advancing. About 30%. The battle for position depends on one's combat power and strategy. It's not like there's no hope. Taichiong, Honorable God Realm, Hidden Honorable City. Sure enough, he won. Huang Zun of Xingzong witnessed Lin Feng defeat Manjiang, and his eyes flashed. Unlike the other venerables, as the deputy region leader, he understood the newcomers better and knew that Lin Feng's strength was above Manjiang's. It was reasonable for him to win. He's still holding back his strength. The mixed strength heavenly way has not completely merged with the 9 heavens of light and darkness. It seems that he's holding back for the battle for position. Unfortunately, it's only the initial mixed strength heavenly way. There's too little time. Huang Zun of Xingzong shook his head. If it was the small success mixed strength heavenly way, the combat power would be completely different. Lin Feng had the ability to break through the obstacles and get the only spot in the battle for position. But now, it could only depend on luck. Because in terms of strength alone, he felt that the current Lin Feng was still a little lacking. Battle Area 77. Huang Zun of Xingzong's eyes flashed, and then he laughed. After defeating Manjiang, he met Yin Handy. Could this Lin Feng be a rookie killer? Seed 4. His strength is about the same as Yan Handy, and he's about the same as Cho in the 3rd seat. The strongest one is Daoist Sangue in the 1st seat, who is extremely proficient in the laws of space and time. Let's see who is in the 5th seat. However, the 2 newcomers will probably be stopped in this round. Huang Qinyan. Mingzong Huang Zun's eyes lit up. Takedown seat 1 of duel zone 81. With her strength and the opponents in seats 2, 3, and 4, there is an 80% chance that she will advance to the roulette round. A total of 381 eras. Finally, a rookie has advanced to the roulette battle. Between her and Yiya, who is the strongest newcomer of the 2 training camps in the combat zone. Huang Zun stood with his hands behind his back. He was looking forward to it. Universe Region, Plaza Lounge Bar. Wang Zihan, Meng Luo, Pula, Meng Tuoyuo, a group of Xingfeng branch's special class geniuses sat in a circle. First-class geniuses like Qi Ruolin, Yuan Xiu, and Ouyang Yi were even more numerous. A total of 55 cultivators. It had to be said that Wang Zihan and Meng Luo's rallying power was quite strong. Even Pula, who disliked Lin Feng, came. After all, Wang Zihan was the strongest in the Xingfeng branch of the Hidden Saint training camp. They had to give him some face. Boring, Pula muttered to himself. From time to time, he would pick up a cup of wine and drink from it. What's the point of this kind of cheering? Could it be that Lin Feng can go to heaven? With his strength It's impossible for him to enter the competition. Chi Wolin glanced over. Whether he enters or not, Lin Feng is already the pride of our Xingfeng branch. How many eras has it been? Our Xingfeng branch has always been nameless. Not to mention the second stage, we didn't even enter the first stage. Good luck. Pu La was still stubborn. Yuan Xiu laughed. Luck is also a part of strength. Who knows, maybe Brother Lin will continue to have good luck later. Wang Zihan laughed. Don't worry too much about the results. This is just a tradition of the training camp. There are 836 cultivators from different astral realms gathered here. They are all cheering for their branch's cultivators. Out of the 29,999 astral realms, less than 3% of the branches have this honor. The other branches can only be envious. Meng Luo sighed. Our Xingfeng astral realm is ranked below 20,000 among the 29,999 astral realms. In the past, when did we ever get a chance to enter the combat region and survival region? Pula picked up his wine and drank it fiercely. Since the two big shots had spoken, he naturally wouldn't say anything more. He could only curse in his heart. Isn't it just good luck? In the next era, no. In the era after that, I can also enter the second stage of the Great Elimination Sand and fiercely show off for once. Pula clenched his teeth. His eyes were filled with jealousy and hatred, because he was eliminated by Lin Feng. With his mediocre strength, he will be eliminated soon. He still wants to enter the battle? Stop dreaming. Pula thought to himself. Suddenly, an excited voice sounded beside him. Chapter 2442. He has advanced. Lin Feng has advanced. It's true. Look at the newcomer rankings. Lin Feng has replaced Man Jiang and is ranked 3rd. I knew it. Lin Feng will definitely advance. He is a super genius of our Xingfeng branch. He is too awesome. Wang Zihan and the Minluo experts were excited. Lin Feng had entered the top 500. This was not a competition with the newcomers, but with the super geniuses who had been in the training camp for several epochs. To have such a result was enough to be proud. Only Huang Qinyan, Yin Handy, and Lin Feng have advanced to the ranking battle. It's too cruel. 6 newcomers advanced to the second stage of the Great Sand Elimination Tournament, and 3 of them were eliminated in an instant. That goes without saying. The later stages will be more difficult. The ranking battle is even more cruel. Only 1 out of 5 cultivators can obtain a position in the roulette battle. Huang Qinyan may be ranked 1st in the newcomer rankings, but it is also harder than ascending to heaven to enter the ranking battle. Yes, it is said that no newcomer has entered the roulette battle for more than 300 epochs. It is too difficult after all. Strength alone is not enough. It also depends on luck and experience. Anyway, we are already satisfied. Lin Feng is now in the top 3 of the newcomer rankings. He even squeezed Man Jiang out. This time, our Xingfeng branch can finally hold our heads up high. Some were happy, some were sad. As the 500 cultivators advanced to the ranking battle and 500 cultivators were eliminated, the cultivators in the 100 dueling areas had gathered. Each dueling area was divided into positions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There were 12 pairs of corners and 34 pairs of corners. Position 5 was the worst as it was located in the center of the dueling area. The rules of the ranking battle were simple. The one with the highest score would advance. It was the same as the last stage of the first stage of the Great Sand Elimination Tournament. Because of the chaotic battle, it was easy to turn into a group fight. For example, the number 1 seed expert would be easily surrounded by other cultivators. As the saying goes, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands. After all, those who could enter the top 500 were not weak. I didn't expect to encounter Yin Handy. Lin Feng was currently in seat 4, which was actually no different from seat 3. Above him was seat 2, and below him was seat 1. Between seat 3 and seat 4, seat 5 was located in the middle of the duel area. Another newbie. Seat 1 is Taoist Priest 3 Ghosts. Lin Feng recognized the expert in the first position. He was currently ranked 80th among the top 100 cultivators in the Hidden Supreme training camp. To be able to obtain the first position in the ranking battle, it was enough to show how strong he was. Fortunately, it was only Taoist priest 3 ghosts. If he had encountered top-notch experts like Pu Kiki, Tua Kong, or Alma, they would have immediately surrendered. There's still hope. Lin Feng glanced at Yan Handy, who was in the second seat. Yan Handy was a newcomer like him, but it was clear that his actual combat strength was stronger than Manzhong's. He should be on par with me. Even if he's stronger than me, it shouldn't be by much. I don't recognize seat 3. Lin Feng didn't know many cultivators, but he naturally knew someone as famous as Taoist priest 3 ghosts. Seat 3 was a man with an ugly face. On his back was an ancient tortoise-shell pattern. There was no heavenly treasure in the combat area, so this was his original form, the same as Manzhong's forearms. Demon race expert, ugly. He was good at defense and cultivated the fusion of earth and time. Hua, the cultivator who appeared in seat 5, was a special life form with 4 eyes. The top 2 eyes were green, and the bottom 2 eyes were blue. When looking at his eyes, it was as if time had stopped. His soul power is very strong. If he's not from the time region, then he's from other regions. It's very likely that he cultivated a soul secret technique. Lin Feng instantly judged. Every opponent couldn't be underestimated. Even the 4-eyed special life form in seat 5 had a chance of advancing. Now that they were still alive, which one of them was weak? Every single cultivator was secretly plotting and scheming in their hearts, waiting for the battle to begin. Let's see who can get more points. 2 points. Whoever gets 2 points first has a high chance of advancing. Once Taoist priest 3 ghosts gets 1 point first, the ranking battle is basically over. Lin Feng knew very well that with Taoist priest 3 ghosts' strength, after getting 1 point, he could naturally stay until the end. He would have a lot of choices. If he participated, he could get 2 points. If he didn't participate, he could control the situation and keep everyone's points at 1 point. If he stayed, he would win. The strongest Taoist priest 3 ghosts had the highest chance of staying until the end. As soon as the battle begins, Taoist triple ghost will definitely attack the demon race expert in position 3 or attack me. Lin Feng put himself in his shoes and could easily judge that directly attacking seat 5 was too stupid. He would definitely be targeted. 280 chance. The possibility of attacking me is 80%. Lin Feng had already sorted out his thoughts. Seat 4 was generally weaker than seat 3, and he was a newcomer. If Taoist priest 3 ghosts didn't attack him, who would he attack? Moreover, seat 3 was good at defense and wasn't easy to deal with. I have 3 plans. First, find seat 2 Yin Handy and fight her one-on-one. Second, go directly to the central area and find seat 5 where the 4-eyed special life form is. Third, go to the no man's land between the central area and seat 2, and then act according to the situation. Lin Feng's thoughts were very clear at the moment. First of all, avoid Taoist priest 3 ghosts. If he didn't, he would be finished. Although he was seat 4, he should have the ability to compete with seat 2 and seat 3, and the other party was likely to underestimate him. This was his advantage. There were too many variables. It was different from the first stage of Sentosa. In the first stage, because there were 2 places to advance, the competition was actually not so fierce. But now there was only 1 place to advance. Naturally, the 8 immortals crossed the sea and each showed their magical powers. All 3 plans were fine. But first of all, he had to know that the other cultivators were not puppets and wouldn't be controlled by him. For example, seat 5's 4-eyed special life form. Would he stand there stupidly and wait for others to attack? Impossible. If he entered the central area, seat 5's 4-eyed special life form would escape, and he would be trapped in an even worse situation. Either fight Yin Handy one-on-one, or go to the no man's land and act according to the situation. The latter. There was no time to think anymore. The white halo around Lin Feng's body had gradually dimmed. The battle was about to begin. Taoist priest 3 ghosts, Yin Handy, Cho Cho, and the 4-eyed special life form were all ready. Suddenly, the white light disappeared, and 5 astonishing auras erupted at the same time. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the duel area, Taoist priest 3 ghosts, who was the strongest, took the lead to attack. His body was divided into three, extending like fingers, and at the same time, he went straight to seat 3, 4, and 5. 1 against 3. Chapter 2443. The strength and courage of Taoist 3 ghosts made the other cultivators' faces change. Yan Handy, in the 2nd position, went straight to the 4-eyed special life form in the 5th position, not following the right path. Wander in the 3rd position hesitated slightly, and then went to the 2nd position where Yan Handy was originally at. Obviously, he wanted to avoid the first round of hard battles. Lin Feng chose the 3rd option and quickly went to the no-man's land between the 4-eyed special life form and Yan Handy. But at this time, the 4-eyed special life form retreated, and Yan Handy went to the middle, and the situation changed instantly. Taoist triple ghost is split into 3 and can change at any time. Not only is his opponent unable to predict which cultivator he will attack, but more importantly, he is able to avoid being targeted. Moreover, his boldness makes other cultivators wary of him. In the first battle, I must not fight with him first. Once I'm delayed, it will be difficult for me to get even 1 point. Lin Feng instantly changed his direction and went straight to Yan Handy. If there was one that Taoist 3 ghosts was most wary of, it must be Yan Handy in the 2nd position. The ranking was basically linked to strength. If he went to Yan Handy would not back down. After all, for him, dealing with him in the 4th position was no different from dealing with the 4-eyed special life form in the 5th position. But Taoist 3 ghosts would definitely not provoke Yan Handy and him first, because then he and Yan Handy could cooperate to deal with Taoist 3 ghosts. You don't know what's good for you. As the prince of the Yan Handy demon clan, Yan Handy was extremely arrogant. Seeing a newcomer daring to challenge him, he would not back down. He did not even take Taoist 3 ghosts seriously. No matter how famous he was, he would only know who was better after fighting. Boom! Yan Handy directly waved his fist, and the fiery red fist was like the eruption of a flaming mountain. A shocking heavenly Tao appeared in the void, and the most terrifying thing was the power of the eruption of the flaming mountain. It roared continuously, like the power of nature in the universe, very real. Mixed strength heavenly Tao, small success. Great avalanche. Lin Feng did not back down. Facing Yan Handy's attack, he no longer hid his strength. His initial fusion of chaos, heavenly way, and third sky of light and darkness was already perfect, reaching 90%. The rumbling sound of the avalanche was filled with tremendous power. The light and dark energies blended with each other, colliding with Yan Handy's attack like 2 stars colliding. They didn't give way to each other. What? Yan Handy didn't expect this. This rookie in position 4 was actually able to block his attack without suffering any damage. He's actually stronger than Man Jiang. As soon as they exchanged blows, Yan Handy knew that this was a tough opponent. He was definitely at the 60th level of the simulation space. A beam of light shot out from her eyes as her fighting spirit soared. One newcomer after another appeared, which made Yan Handy extremely unhappy. He was the strongest newbie in the training camp. Boom! She threw out another punch. The cyan light was like a hurricane. The heavenly way of the Tao of nature was endowed with the same heavenly way of mixed strength. One red and one cyan intertwined. Yan Handy had used all of her strength. Lin Feng's attack was also clean and efficient. Neither was willing to give an inch. Taichung God Realm, Qianzuan City. They both have the battle strength close to the 61st level. Lin Feng and Yan Handy. These 2 newcomers are really strong. Yeah, if it was any other era, they would be able to compete for the top spot on the newcomer ranking list. Unfortunately, Huang Qinyan is in this era. All the newcomers are overshadowed. She has already gotten 1 point in the battle for the position. With her strength, she is already half a step into the roulette battle. Pu Kiki is the best. 1v4. Haha. For these top experts in the combat field, 1v4 is the standard configuration. The sovereigns were appreciating the battle for the position and commenting from time to time. The combat field had already reached its climax. Even the deputy governor of Xingzong, Huang Zun, was staring intently at the huge screen, reading the information given by the top artificial intelligence. Dual Area 77 was still in chaos. Compared to the other battle areas, Battle Area 77, where Lin Feng was too similar in strength. Other than Daoist Triple Ghost, who was slightly stronger, Yan Handy, Lin Feng, and Lao Chou all had the battle strength close to the 61st level. Among them, Lao Chou's defense was extremely high. The slightly weaker, four-eyed, special life form, Kuroi, had the battle strength of the 60th level. However, he was good at soul secret techniques, soul attacks, and illusions. Even Daoist Triple Ghost was wary of him. Daoist Triple Ghost was confident that he could kill Kuroi, but he might be severely injured by Kuroi's soul attack. This was something that Daoist Triple Ghost could not accept. Now that Lin Feng and Yin Handy were fighting fiercely, Daoist Triple Ghost was not willing to intervene. This was because he could see that these two newcomers were definitely not to be trifled with. If he interrupted their battle, their anger would burn him. Therefore, he was now focused on attacking the demon race expert, Lao Chou. Although the other party's defense was high, the key was he was not a threat. As long as he spent some time, Daoist Triple Ghost was confident that he could kill Lao Chou. It was a protracted battle. In Duel Area number 77, Kuroi and Lao Chou were fighting against Daoist Triple Ghost. Daoist Triple Ghost concentrated his firepower on Lao Chou. On the other side, Lin Feng and Yin Handy were fighting fiercely. They were both injured, but their fighting spirit was getting higher and higher. Chaos Heavenly Tao. So this is how the Chaos Heavenly Tao is used. The battle between Lin Feng and Yin Handy was like a needle piercing into the flesh. Lin Feng had the deepest understanding. Yin Handy's Chaos Heavenly Tao had not only reached small success, but was also close to great success. For Lin Feng, whose Chaos Heavenly Tao was only at the initial stage, fighting with her had benefited a lot. It was like a senior giving advice to a junior. It should be fused like this. This is the right way to use the Chaos Heavenly Tao. This is the key. After 17 years of practice, Lin Feng's fusion of the Chaos Heavenly Tao and the third sky of light and darkness was gradually getting better. However, after the fusion reached 95%, it became slower and slower. He lacked some experience, mainly because he had not used the Chaos Heavenly Tao too much and did not know much about it. Now he had mastered it. What's going on? Why is his battle strength getting stronger and stronger? Impossible. Yin Handy's face was ugly. He kept attacking Lin Feng, but his opponent was like a spring. The deeper he pressed, the harder he bounced back. The other cultivators could not see it, but Yin Handy could feel it himself. He was terrified. This newcomer Lin Feng's battle strength was getting stronger and stronger. No, I can't lose. Yin Handy was furious, but he gradually lost his ability to continue. His injuries were getting worse. His opponent's blade made him feel powerless. His strength seemed to be disappearing and uncontrollable. The body given by the top intelligence was too weak. No. Yin Handy looked at the blade in the void and roared in his heart. He was full of fighting spirit, but at this time, his strength was completely exhausted. Chi. Yin Handy eliminated. Chapter 2444. 100% fusion rate. Lin Feng's eyes shone brightly, his fighting spirit boiling. Although his injuries were not light, the 100% fusion rate had increased his combat power to another level. Previously, he was close to the 61st level, but now he had completely reached the 61st level. In the simulation space, the 5 levels were one level, and the difference between the 60th and 61st level was very big. Most importantly, the battle with Yan Handy allowed Lin Feng to understand a lot, especially the almost perfect small success level of the mixed strength Heavenly Tao. There was no guidance, and it was the most direct when it came to a life and death battle. Boom! On the other side, Shoucho was already heavily injured. Taoist Priest 3 Ghost Tyrannical Strength blocked the combined attacks of Kuroi and Shou Cho, but he still had the upper hand. He was extremely powerful, but this time he was staring at Lin Feng, his black and white eyes hiding surprise and fear. Because in the one-on-one battle, the one who lost was the second position Yan Handy. Although Lin Feng was not lightly injured, Taoist Priest 3 Ghosts could not abandon Kuroi and Shou Cho. If he did, he would very likely be trapped and attacked by the three cultivators. No matter how confident Taoist Priest 3 Ghosts was, he would not dare to play like this. Moreover, Shou Cho was already heavily injured and would be eliminated soon. For Taoist Priest 3 Ghosts, the most important thing was to kill Shou Cho and get the precious 1 point first. As for Kuroi and Shou Cho, it was even more impossible for them to leave. Currently, they were not a match for Taoist Priest 3 Ghosts in a 2-on-1 battle. If either of them left the battle, it would be equivalent to selling their teammate to Taoist Priest 3 Ghosts. Once Taoist Priest 3 Ghosts got the first point, the only person in the ranking battle would basically be settled. Because with Taoist Priest 3 Ghost strength, there was more than a 90% chance that he could stay until the end. Whoosh! After killing Yan Handy, Lin Feng immediately distanced himself from the other three cultivators to avoid sneak attacks. However, the three seemed to be in deep water and did not pay attention to him. In just a few seconds, Lin Feng had already clearly judged the situation. Sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight? This was no longer the first stage of the Great Elimination Sand, and he was no longer the strongest. Even though he could perfectly merge with the initial chaos Heavenly Tao and reach the strength of the 61st stage, he was still inferior to the Taoist Priest 3 Ghosts. We can't let him get the first point. Lin Feng was very clear. Once Taoist Triple Ghost obtained the first point, even if he obtained the second point, it would be useless. This was because in the final one-on-one battle, he would most likely lose. Right now, there were two paths in front of him. He could either wait for an opportunity to kill the heavily injured Ugly and steal the first point from Taoist 3 Ghosts, or he could deal with Taoist 3 Ghosts himself. I can't deal with the demon expert in position 3, Lin Feng thought to himself. Although this seemed to be more likely, once he defeated Shou Cho and obtained 2 points, he would instantly become the target of everyone. The Taoist Priest 3 Ghosts and the four-eyed special life form in the 5th position would definitely join forces to attack him. By then, he would be doomed. The one who laughs last is the real one. Whoosh! Lin Feng immediately charged into the chaotic battle and attacked the Taoist Priest 3 Ghosts. He had no other choice. He could not watch Taoist 3 Ghosts take the first point, nor could he sit on a mountain and watch the tigers fight. Thus, he could only join the battle and take down Taoist 3 Ghosts together with the cultivators in position 3 and 5. Moreover, he absolutely could not be the main attacker. Judging the situation, this little guy is smart. Huang Zun looked at Lin Feng's performance on the screen and nodded in satisfaction. With his experience, he could easily judge the situation. However, those involved could not see clearly, and Lin Feng was a newcomer. It was not easy for him to not be blinded by victory and make the right choice in such a short time. He even pretended to be injured and retreated to the second line, giving the scoring opportunity to Carob. This little guy is really cunning. Huang Zun smiled. What the 7th Mercenary Alliance wanted were cultivators with strength, potential, and brains. Therefore, there were many areas where wisdom and strategy were needed in the combat domain and the survival domain. In a 3 against 1, Taoist 3 Ghosts would not be a match for them no matter how strong he was, especially when Lin Feng's combat strength was already very strong. If Lin Feng was the main attacker, he would definitely make Shou Cho and Carob wary because he had already scored points. Even if they did not attack Lin Feng, the three of them would definitely be in a mess when they worked together because they all wanted to snatch points. Facing Taoist 3 Ghosts, could he win in a chaotic battle? Moreover, so what if Lin Feng got the second point? Shou Cho and Carob would definitely work together to attack him. Instead of becoming the target of public criticism, it was better to take a step back and enjoy the boundless sea and sky. Sometimes, taking a step back is more important than taking a step forward. Huang Zun sneered. On the screen, Taoist 3 ghosts had been forced into a dangerous situation, and Lin Feng had retreated to the back. He seemed to be seriously injured, but in fact he had helped Shou Chou and Carob to reverse the balance of the battle. As long as Taoist 3 ghosts dies, I can win most of the position battle. Lin Feng's injuries were indeed serious, but not as serious as what he was showing at the moment. At least, they were much lighter than Shou Chou's injuries. Whether it was Taoist 3 ghosts or Carob, they were not idiots. It was obvious at a glance whether they were faking their injuries or not. However, it was difficult to tell how serious their injuries were. Lin Feng did not plan to take the initiative to kill Taoist 3 ghosts. Even if he was very confident that he could snatch the point from the powerhouses in position 3 and 5, he would be killed at the same time. At that time, although he would get 2 points, he might not necessarily advance because the cultivator who killed him and also got 2 points would stay longer than him and advance. Moreover, after all, Taoist Triple Ghost is a super expert on the ranking board. It's impossible to kill him without paying a price. If I push him too hard, it'll be too sad. Lin Feng was not afraid of dying together with Taoist Triple Ghost. If he died together with Taoist Triple Ghost, he could advance smoothly. He was afraid that Taoist 3 ghosts had hidden a trump card and would kill him first. That would be depressing. He would leave the risk to the cultivators in position 3 and 5. His goal was to stay until the end. Boom! Chi! Rumble! With Lin Feng's support, Carob in position 5 became more and more powerful. Although his strength was slightly inferior, how weak could he be if he could enter the top 500? Moreover, Carob's attacks contained soul fluctuations, which greatly affected Taoist 3 ghosts. Otherwise, he would not have been injured by Lin Feng's attacks again and again. As for Shou Chou, although he was seriously injured, he landed in front of Carob and blocked most of Taoist 3 ghosts' attacks. He was also waiting for an opportunity to kill Taoist 3 ghosts. His cooperation was very clever, making Taoist 3 ghosts suffer. Chi! Bang! The avalanche rumbled. Taoist 3 ghosts, who had just been intimidated by Carob's soul, turned pale. The continuous injuries made him unable to continue fighting. His swaying body was knocked by Shou Chou. Carob screamed as a soul spike pierced into Taoist 3 ghosts' mind.